Chapter 1291. 1291 Heavenly Sword Ling Yun. Heavenly Sword Ling Yun. Has this Ling Jianer gotten over it? Has she acknowledged her father? What will Heavenly Sword Ling Yun be? The welcoming ceremony her father held for her? Wang Xian looked at the words on the invitation letter and guessed curiously. Heavenly Sword Ling Yun would be held on the island of the Heavenly Sword sect 2 days later. Wang Xian thought about it and kept the invitation letter. He could go and take a look at the Heavenly Sword Ling Yun meeting in 2 days. The night passed quickly. The next morning, Wang Xian arrived at the island of the Radiant Dragon Empire, punctually according to the time. When Wang Xian arrived, He Yuan and Long Xiaotian had already arrived. Brother Wang Xian, the remaining spiritual liquid is for you. He Yuan waved his arm and threw a porcelain bottle at him. Wang Xian smiled and caught it. 200,000 spiritual liquid could be converted into 140 million dragon crystals. He was still about 400 million away from leveling up. Let's go. I'll bring you to Shaoyun Pavilion. It's a good place. Long Xiaotian said to Wang Xian, He Yuan, and the rest in a good mood. The two of them followed by the side and walked towards the Shaoyun Pavilion that he mentioned. The so-called Shaoyun Pavilion went straight into the clouds. Clouds and mist passed through the pavilion. However, the most distinctive feature of this place were the naked beauties. When Wang Xian entered, he was slightly stunned. However, when he saw Long Xiaotian winking at them, he gave them an understanding look. It was obvious that this was the first time He Yuan came to such a place. His eyes were somewhat attracted, and he would look left and right from time to time. It was obvious that he was a novice. This made Wang Xian and Long Xiaotian feel amused and mocked him. This made He Yuan's face turn red. As the most outstanding son of Heaven's pride in the family, he had grown up in the eyes of everyone in the He clan. Naturally, he had never been to such a place. Moreover, after coming here, the young disciples of the Yin clan did not dare to bring him to such a place. There were 3 great ironies in life. Going through the same window, going through the same spear. The other one was understood by everyone. This clearly made sense, even if it was on the transcendental continent. Although they were not considered to be a place for red lanterns and feasting, they were simply relaxing and watching the dance. Hey, do you guys know about the Heavenly Sword sect? 1 day ago, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect went to the royal city of the Hanhai dynasty and killed 5 or 6 insightful Void Realm experts. He also killed the prince who besieged Ling Jianer. How could we not know? This is a big event that shocked the Luhai region. The sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect broke through and reached the 6th level of the insightful Void Realm, becoming one of the strongest experts in the Luhai region. In the future, the Heavenly Sword sect will be able to stand on equal footing with the Bloody Flow dynasty. The sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect has personally come to bring her daughter back. I heard that he has failed several times. In the end, I wonder how Ling Jianer agreed to it. Tomorrow, the Heavenly Sword sect will hold the Heavenly Sword Ling Yun event. Firstly, it is to announce the current strength of their Heavenly Sword sect. Secondly, it is to bring Ling Jianer back. Oh right, I heard that the Heavenly Sword sect will announce that a disciple will join. I told you, it is best not to provoke Ling Jianer. Her father will definitely come to pick her up. However, what everyone did not expect was that her father actually made a breakthrough and directly charged into the royal city of the Hanhai dynasty, which bullied his daughter. It is simply too domineering. With Ling Jianer's current status, even some princes of the Bloodshed Empire can't compare to her, right? Just as Wang Xian and the other 2 were lying in the special hot spring of the Yunxiao Pavilion, a conversation came from the side, causing Wang Xian to be slightly stunned. By the way, brother Wang Xian, don't you know Ling Jianer? Did you receive the invitation from Tianjin Lingyan? Long Xiaotian heard the conversation and asked him. I received it. Wang Xian nodded. Ling Jianer, is the Heaven Sword sect very powerful? He Yuan asked curiously. She is considered one of the top forces in the Luhai region. Ling Jianer is also very powerful. She has the battle strength of the see-through void tier at such a young age. She is ranked third on the Heaven's Favorites list. Long Xiaotian explained to him. Oh, she has the battle strength of the see-through void tier, at such a young age. Moreover, she is a girl. I realized that the Heaven's Favorites in the Luhai region are also very powerful. He Yuan said with some surprise. This year is a little special. I wonder how each and every one of these freaks appeared. Long Xiaotian shook his head and said with some emotion. I reckon that all the major factions in the Flowing Sea region will be present this time. The sect master of the Heaven's Sword sect is going to become the strongest powerhouse. In the future, even the Blood Flow Empire will have to be wary of him. He continued, tomorrow should be a grand gathering. Brother Wang Xian, let's go together. Yes, sure. Wang Xian nodded his head. The three of them played for more than 10 hours in some well-known places in the tomb of the demi-human. On the afternoon of the second day, Wang Xian flew towards the seaside. The island of the Sky Sword sect was not very far from the Light Dragon Empire. It was only about 10 kilometers away. The Heavenly Sword sect was a powerful sect that wasn't weaker than the Light Dragon Empire. Now that the Heavenly Sword sect's sect master's strength had increased, the Heavenly Sword sect had become a force that was comparable to the Blood Flow Empire. The entire Luhai region was an unparalleled existence. This Heaven's Pride Lingyun gathering was a form of propaganda for the Heavenly Sword sect. At the same time, it announced the return of Ling Jian'er. From this Heaven Sword Lingyun gathering, everyone knew what kind of status Ling Jian'er had in the Heaven Sword sect. When Wang Xian arrived at the island of the Heaven Sword sect, there were already many people at the front. Everyone had an extraordinary temperament. The forces they represented could intimidate a large group of people with just a casual display. Brother Wang Xian. Long Xiaoyan's voice rang out as he looked over. Let's go in. He Yuan will come over with the Yin clansmen later. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head, and the two of them walked towards the Heavenly Sword sect's island. No one dared to reject the invitation letter from the Heavenly Sword sect. Even the Blood Flow Empire had to give them some face. There were many people around them, young masters and young ladies from various forces, as well as the outstanding Heavens Chosen on the Heavens Chosen roll. Wang Xian had met quite a few of them. Tonight, Sky Sword Lingyun would be located in front of the back mountain behind the island. In front of the 100-meter-long mountain peak, there were artificial mountains and fake water. The environment was very beautiful. There were hundreds of tables placed around them. There would be no less than 3,000 to 4,000 people who would arrive tonight. Second Prince, you're here so early. Hee. Big brother Long Xiaotian, I heard that you got a batch of mounts. Congratulations. Wang Xian followed Long Xiaotian to the back of the mountain. As soon as he entered, some young men came up to him. They spoke to Long Xiaotian with some compliments. Recently, almost everyone thought that the second prince of the Radiant Dragon dynasty had a high chance of inheriting the throne and would become the king of the Radiant Dragon dynasty in the future. Naturally, they had formed a good relationship in advance. When Long Xiaotian saw the few of them approaching, he politely responded to them one by one. At a place in front of them, more than 10 young men were sitting at a table. When they saw Long Xiaotian and Wang Xian, their eyes turned cold. Chapter 1292. 1292. He had 6 wives. The mission over there failed. What a piece of trash. It was the Devil Realm who was careless. That kid opened a grocery store that even sold a level 2 profound void formation array. The assassins they sent were obviously discovered by the array and killed. This kid is very tricky to deal with. When second brother saw us coming together, he also put all his subordinates on the island of the Light Dragon dynasty. We can't drag this on any longer. If we drag this on any longer, even if second brother cowers now, we won't be his match in the future. On the back mountain of the Heavenly Sword sect's island, the first prince, the 16th prince, the 22nd prince, the 36th prince, and the 42nd prince of the Radiant Dragon Empire were sitting at a table. Beside them, there were 7 to 8 young men. All of them were disciples of aristocratic families and favored sons of heaven. When the 5 princes saw Long Xiaotian and Wang Xian arriving, a cold look flashed across their eyes. A few days ago, they paid a huge price to hire a Devil Realm assassin organization to assassinate the young beast tamer. In the end, what they didn't expect was to fail the mission. The 3 assassins disappeared immediately, causing them to look extremely embarrassed. Yesterday, they received news that Long Xiaotian had obtained more than 100 powerful ferocious beast mounts, which shocked them greatly. If this continued, even if Long Xiaotian stopped developing, they would still not be a match for him. This made every prince's expression extremely awkward. A bloodline cultivator from a small country, he is actually a powerful beast tamer. Su Wenling, who was sitting at the side, followed the gazes of the 5 princes. When he saw Wang Xian, his eyes were filled with dissatisfaction and jealousy. Initially, he was prepared to seek refuge with the second prince. However, due to the appearance of Wang Xian, he was displeased and did not seek refuge with the second prince. Instead, he sought refuge under the first prince, who was also a heaven's favorite. Under the first prince, he was indeed more valued, and had a high status among the subordinates of the first prince. However, when he saw the second prince's powerful strength, he felt a strong sense of dissatisfaction. It was all because of that young man. You can look down on bloodline cultivators, but you can't look down on beast tamers. Su Wenling's words caused a young man on the opposite side to retort lightly. Big brother Jiang Chuan, I heard that a powerful and beautiful beast tamer teacher came to your academy. Is that true? A young man asked with a smile. Jiang Chuan picked up the wine cup on the table and took a deep breath. His eyes flashed with a trace of heat, and he nodded with a smile. Brother Jiang, have you considered the matter of the young beast tamer? The 36th prince looked at Jiang Chuan and asked with a smile. The other princes, Long Xiaochen and the others, also looked at him with smiles. I won't participate in the competition between the princes of the Light Dragon dynasty. It won't benefit me at all. Jiang Chuan looked at them and shook his head lightly. Brother Jiang Chuan, you only need to deal with that kid, not my brother. The reward in the future is negotiable. Long Xiaochen frowned and asked Jiang Chuan. You can't even get rid of that kid, even if you invite the demon realm. How can I have the ability? Jiang Chuan smiled and shook his head. This made Long Xiaochen and the others' faces turn ugly. The 36th prince was on good terms with Jiang Chuan, but Jiang Chuan didn't want to get involved in this kind of thing. After all, it involved the competition for the throne of the Light Dragon dynasty. If the second prince, Long Xiao, was naive enough to ascend the throne in the future, then he would make enemies with him and might suffer revenge in the future. Long Xiaochen and the other princes' faces turned ugly. They had used an assassin once and paid a huge price. If they continued to hire assassins, they wouldn't be able to afford the spirit stones and spirit liquids they needed. Besides assassins, there weren't many people who could help them kill 2 experts of the first rank of the Profound Void tier. To kill him, they would need to use experts of the second rank of the Profound Void tier at the very least. As for experts of the second rank of the Profound Void tier, they didn't have any. When the other forces saw that the other party was the second prince's man, they didn't dare to offend him. This was because they were afraid that Long Xiaotian would take revenge on them after he ascended the throne. Jiang Chuan had the ability to do so because he was the great-grandson of the current principal of the Divine Wind Academy. He was a descendant of the principal. Moreover, Jiang Chuan was deeply loved by the principal. He was able to mobilize experts at the second level of the Void Interpretation realm. But he did not want to get involved. This made them very helpless. The 5 princes looked at each other and frowned while drinking wine. They were thinking about how to deal with Long Xiaotian and Wang Xian. This must be the second prince's good brother, Brother Wang Xian. I've heard a lot about you. On the other side, when Wang Xian and Long Xiaotian arrived, many people came to greet them. Many of them also greeted Wang Xian. Now some of them knew that he had a deep relationship with Long Xiaotian. Furthermore, they also knew about Wang Xian, killing the 8th prince's subordinates with the 2 ferocious beasts. Wang Xian replied politely as well. At this moment his expression suddenly froze. He stared straight ahead, and his expression changed slightly. Why is she here? I didn't expect her to be here. Wang Xian sighed slightly. Looking at the figure, he hesitated for a moment before standing up and walking over. Where are you going, brother Wang Xian? Long Xiaotian saw Wang Xian leaving and asked hurriedly. I met an acquaintance. Wang Xian waved his hand without turning his head, and walked straight towards the figure. Long Xiaotian looked over curiously. When he saw Wang Xian in front of him, he was slightly taken aback. His expression was a little strange. Brother Wang Xian's old lover? Zhang Fengying. Wang Xian looked at the tall and graceful figure standing together with a girl. A smile appeared on his face as he shouted directly. Meow. A cute kitten squeezed out from her exaggerated clothes and looked at Wang Xian. Zhang Fengying, who was chatting with the girl next to her, froze slightly. She turned around and looked at him in astonishment. What a coincidence. I didn't expect you to be here. Wang Xian smiled and continued. Zhang Fengying was slightly stunned when she saw Wang Xian's face. She pursed her lips and her eyes flickered. Fengying? Who is this? The lady at the side looked at Wang Xian and looked at him in astonishment. A friend. Zhang Fengying suddenly smiled and looked at the lady. Xiaoya, talk to your friend first. I still have something to do. As she spoke, she looked at Wang Xian with a smile and walked over. Wang Xian took a wine cup from the side and walked to her before handing it to her. Why are you here? Wang Xian looked at her and asked. To improve my strength and ability. That's why I'm here. Zhang Fengying looked at Wang Xian with a smile on her face. I didn't expect to meet you here. Haha, this might be fate. Wang Xian smiled and sized her up. It seems like you are much skinnier than before. Chapter 1293. 1293 in, he had 6 wives. This focus of yours doesn't look like a good person. When Zhang Fengying saw him sizing her up, she couldn't help but roll her eyes at him and said unhappily. Hee, what are you doing now? Why are you here? Wang Xian asked her. I'm a teacher in the Divine Wind Academy. I joined the academy by chance not too long ago. What about you? Why did you come here from the Dragon and Phoenix dynasty? Zhang Fengying asked him. To gain experience and improve my strength. I think I'll be back in 7 to 8 months at most. Wang Xian said to her, and hesitated for a moment. I'll go back then. Come with me. The tomb of the demi-human is too messy. It's not safe. Zhang Fengying was stunned when she heard his words. She smoothed her long hair and her eyes sparkled. We'll see. Wang Xian shook his head and said. It's decided then. HMPH, if I don't go back, can you still tie me up and bring me back? Zhang Fengying glared at him and snorted softly. Wang Xian smiled and started to talk about what had happened to her during this period of time. However, at this moment Jiang Chuan, who was sitting beside the few princes of the Kingdom of Light Dragon, suddenly stood up. His gaze was directed at Wang Xian and Zhang Fengying as his expression kept changing. Brother Jiang Chuan, what's wrong? Everyone at the table looked at Jiang Chuan and asked in surprise. Why did he suddenly lose his composure? They followed Jiang Chuan's line of sight and were a little surprised. When Long Xiaochen and the other princes saw Wang Xian's figure, their eyes flickered. They looked at Zhang Fengying, who was beside Wang Xian, and then at Jiang Chuan, whose expression kept changing. A faint smile appeared on their faces. I really didn't expect that kid to have such luck with women. That beauty is really beautiful. Long Xiaochen said it on purpose. However, the envy on his face was very real. Zhang Fengying's appearance was definitely one of the best. However, the most popular thing was her figure. Top-notch. She was simply top-notch. That guy doesn't have the right to enjoy such luck with women. Prince number 16 glanced at Prince number 36 and said faintly, Brother Jiang Chuan, may I know what is the relationship between that beauty and you? Prince number 36 looked at Jiang Chuan with a smile and asked. Jiang Chuan didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on Wang Xian and Zhang Fengying. Even though he didn't dare to believe it himself, he had to admit that the relationship between that guy and Zhang Fengying wasn't ordinary. In fact, they were overly intimate. He knew that Zhang Fengying was very cold to other men. But now, phew! He took a deep breath and finished the wine in his glass. Then he looked at the few princes of the Light Dragon dynasty. Help me humiliate that kid. Leave the rest to me. He looked at Long Xiaochen and the others with a gloomy face. Haha, good. Brother Jiangchuan, don't worry. A kid from a small country, even if he has some ability, is not qualified to snatch a beauty from you. Long Xiaochen and the others burst into laughter. They looked at each other and said, "Leave this matter to us." "What do you guys do?" Jiangchuan narrowed his eyes slightly and asked coldly. The few of them fell silent and looked pensive. The simplest way is undoubtedly to tarnish his reputation. However, after today, I hope Brother Jiangchuan can give it a try. The eyes of the 42nd prince flickered as he looked at the group of women on the table beside them. Don't worry about that. I won't be a dilettante, Jiangchuan said coldly. That's good. The 42nd prince stood up and walked to the side with a smile on his face. When the group of women on the table saw him walking over, two of them immediately stood up. Vixen, Cherry Blossom Mercenary Group? Seeing the 42nd prince walk over, the rest of them revealed a trace of contemplation, followed by a trace of a smile on their faces. Done. Soon, the 42nd prince came back with a big smile on his face. He looked at them and said, "If Princess Tang Ling finds out about this, we'll have to compensate her." As expected of a prince, he's really resourceful, Jiang Chuan said with a faint smile. We're taking a big risk. We can't be ordered by Brother Jiang Chuan to do such a thing, right? The 42nd prince smiled and said nonchalantly, Fengying, come here. Let us introduce you to a few sisters. After Wang Xian and Zhang Fengying had talked for more than 10 minutes, the girl called Xiaoya shouted at her. All right, I'll be leaving for a while. Zhang Fengying waved at Xiaoya and said to Wang Xian helplessly. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and said with a smile. Zhang Fengying walked toward Xiaoya. There were at least 5,000 to 6,000 people around her. Fortunately, the island was very large and didn't seem crowded at all. Among them, the disciples of the various major forces and the experts representing the insightful emptiness realm were gathered together. Some of them were conversing while others were greeting each other. This is young Master Wang Xian. Just as Wang Xian was about to return to Long Xiaoyan's place, a gentle and charming voice suddenly came from the side. Wang Xian was stunned for a moment. He looked at a lady who was walking towards him with a surprised expression. The lady was dressed in a slightly revealing manner. She perfectly displayed her impressive body. Her looks were not bad, and she was considered a beauty. You are? Wang Xian looked at her with a puzzled expression. I'm a vixen, Mayor. The woman walked to Wang Xian's side with a smile on her face. Her body was soft as she leaned over with a strange hongwan in her hand. You must have mistaken me for someone else, right? Wang Xian frowned as he looked at her. There was a hint of impatience in his eyes. You don't recognize me just like that? You are really heartless. Didn't you say that you would marry me in the future? Didn't you say that when the second prince ascends the throne, you would give me a bright future? Why are you like this now? Sob sob. As the woman spoke, she gently placed Hong Wan on Wang Xian's body and started to cry. Tears fell from her eyes. She looked extremely miserable, just like a woman who had been abandoned. The second prince. When Wang Xian heard these 3 words, he raised his eyebrows and scanned his surroundings. When he saw more than 10 people looking in his direction, he understood a little. Get lost. Don't court death. Wang Xian waved his arm and shook it gently. Hong Wan landed directly on her body. A trace of aura shook her. Aya sob 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 sob. I didn't expect you to be such a person. You promised to give me happiness. Now that you want my body, you actually pretended not to know me. You heartless man. Under Wang Xian's aura, the woman fell to the side. She cried miserably and shouted at Wang Xian loudly. What's going on? What's going on? The surroundings were crowded with people. When they saw the woman who suddenly fell, they were stunned. Chapter 1294. 1294 And he had 6 wives. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. It's all my fault for being blind to believe you. A miserable and indignant voice came out of the woman's mouth. He stared at Wang Xian with a face full of anger. He looked as weak as he could be. He was as miserable as he could be. Wang Xian looked at the woman who suddenly accused him in her grief and indignation. He frowned slightly. He couldn't understand what this woman was up to. What benefits could he gain by framing him? What kind of blow could he cause to Long Xiaotian? Wang Xian looked at the woman on the ground with an expressionless face. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. From the moment this woman mentioned the second prince, he knew that it was definitely Long Xiaotian's brothers who framed him. However, he didn't understand how a woman could hurt him by framing him. Isn't that the Fox clan's fox charm? This young man actually abandoned the fox charm. This is somewhat inhumane. The Fox clan's women have always been extremely loyal. There are many young masters who want to marry the Fox clan's women. Unfortunately, their horizons are too high. This young man actually abandoned the fox charm. That's right. This young man seems to be the Light Dragon Dynasty's Long Xiaotian's brother. He seems to have 2 profound void tier first-level fierce beasts. TSK, so what? He's rather powerful. Who here has a weak background? How could this fellow do such a thing? It's really embarrassing. Some people around looked over. When they saw this scene, all of them pointed at Wang Xian with disdain. Don't court death. I don't even know you. It's best for you to disappear from my sight as soon as possible. Wang Xian frowned and said coldly as he listened to the discussions of the people around him. Wang Xian, I didn't expect you to be so heartless. You've been with Mayor for so long, and now you've turned your back on her. You're too shameless. Mayor treats you so well. That's right. Mayor often praises you in front of us. I didn't expect you to turn your back on her now. It's a waste for her to hand everything she has to you. At this moment, 2 voices filled with anger rang out. 2 figures walked over to him and helped the fox seductress up from the ground. HMPH, how can there be such a scumbag? He actually said that he didn't want to die and that he should just disappear from my sight. Such a man should be exterminated. That's right. A woman with fox bloodline is extremely loyal. This scumbag actually did such a thing. Damn it. When the surrounding girls heard the words of the 2 girls, they also cursed at Wang Xian angrily. Get out! People like him should get out. Some of the young men also shouted at Wang Xian with cold faces. Everyone around had a strong background. Even if some of them knew that Wang Xian was Long Xiaotian's brother, there were still people who refused to give him face. Wang Xian looked at the thousands of people around him who were looking at him. Many of them started to criticize him and frowned slightly. How is it, Brother Jiang Chuan? Are you satisfied now? Not far away, the 42nd prince looked at this scene with a smug expression and said to Jiang Chuan, Haha, good. Beautiful. It's really beautiful. This is the effect I wanted. Jiang Chuan could not help but laugh when he saw this scene and gave the 42nd prince a thumbs up. This was exactly what he wanted. He wanted to destroy that kid's reputation. If that was the case, Zhang Fengying would never get close to such a scumbag. Come, let's go and take a look. He stood up happily and walked forward. The group of princes followed behind. They looked at Prince number 42 with a smile on their faces. Brother number 42, I didn't expect you to have so many beauties. Is it still useful? Hee brothers, I have sacrificed a lot here. Prince number 42 smiled faintly. The 5 of them laughed at the same time. They did not expect that Jiang Chuan would be willing to take action to get rid of that kid because of this matter. This was a pleasant surprise to them. Long Xiaotian and Zhang Fengying, who were not far away, frowned slightly when they saw the incident with Wang Xian. Fengying, isn't that your friend? What's going on? The lady beside her looked at this scene in astonishment. Zhang Fengying frowned slightly and walked over directly. Xiaoya, who was beside her, immediately followed behind. Look over there, That's Luo Hongwan. A woman with fox bloodline is extremely loyal. She would always carry her Luo Hongwan with her. I didn't expect that guy to throw her away. That's true. Sigh, it's such a pity for Miss Foxy. I feel sorry for him for meeting such a man. Yeah, a guy like that should be eaten by fierce beasts. When more people gathered around, a lady suddenly pointed at Luo Hongwan, who was on the ground, and said, Luo Hongwan was the fresh blood left behind by the lady during her first time. A lady with fox bloodline would always carry her with her. When they saw Luo Hongwan, they also saw the miserable look on Hu Mei's face. With the witnesses and evidence gathered, everyone stared at Wang Xian angrily. What's going on, brother Wang Xian? Long Xiaotian walked over hurriedly. He frowned as he looked at Wang Xian. Then he looked at the vixen beside him. His eyes were filled with doubt. I don't know her. Wang Xian looked at Long Xiaotian and said directly. You don't know her? Long Xiaotian frowned slightly. He stared at the vixen and said, I will investigate this matter clearly. If you are the one who slandered my brother, you, including the Fox clan, will have to wait and see. Long Xiaotian's domineering words caused Ling Hu Mei's face to turn pale. Some of the surrounding youths and women also frowned when they heard his words. However, they did not dare to speak. There was almost no one in the area who could match the Light Dragon Empire's strength. Long Xiaotian, you are a little immoral. A woman was abandoned by your brother, and you actually said that? Are you using your power to oppress others? However, at this moment, Jiang Chuan's voice was heard. When he saw this scene, a trace of a smile flashed across his eyes as he said faintly, That's right, you can't bully a girl like that. That's right, that's right. The few girls next to him were somewhat afraid of Long Xiaotian's power, and they echoed in a low voice. Hee, what kind of person are you? What kind of friends do you have? Second brother, don't embarrass us. As soon as Jiang Chuan finished speaking, Long Xiaochen and the others walked over with smiles on their faces and said loudly, I naturally know the character of my friend. I also know the character of my brother. That's why I said that someone might have deliberately framed him. Long Xiaotian saw them and frowned slightly. He narrowed his eyes and said, Haha, deliberately framed? We will waste time to frame your friend for such a thing. What loss will it bring to you? What benefit will it bring to us? We won't be so bored. The corner of Long Xiaochen's mouth slightly curled up, as he said with a face full of ridicule. Chapter 1295. 1295. You are too ugly and not qualified. Long Xiaotian frowned slightly. Indeed, just as Long Xiaochen had said, using such a low-level method to frame Wang Xian and implicate him was of no use. A woman could at most cause Wang Xian's reputation to be a little bad. But speaking of which, it didn't affect Wang Xian at all. In a world where strength reigned supreme, there was no need to care about anything else. Looking at the seductive fox and Luo Hongwan on the ground, Long Xiaotian looked at Wang Xian again. Even he had some doubts. Wang Xian was really a reckless person who was always abandoned. When the crowd heard Long Xiaochen's words, they nodded their heads silently. They also knew that it was meaningless to use such means in the fight for the throne. It was impossible for the prince of the Light Dragon dynasty to use such low-level means. This had no effect on the overall situation. With this, it made others think that Wang Xian was a scumbag. HMPH, Fengying, I didn't expect your friend to be so despicable. I think it's better for you not to get so close to him in the future. Xiaoye and Zhang Fengying came closer. When they heard the conversation over here, they said angrily. Zhang Fengying looked at Wang Xian, and then looked at the vixen. She frowned slowly. I don't know why you are trying to frame me, but let me tell you, you are from the Fox clan, right? I will seek justice. Wang Xian looked at Hu Mei, who was trying to frame him. His heart was filled with killing intent. Since the other party dared to deal with him, he would have to pay the price. And some of the costs were not something that some people could afford. Hu Mei's face turned pale when she heard Wang Xian's cold words. Her eyes revealed a look of horror. She couldn't help but take a glance at the 42nd prince's position. The 42nd prince's expression changed slightly as well. He immediately shouted, Humph, you are really arrogant. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have second brother. Why? Don't tell me you want to exterminate the Fox bloodline clan? How arrogant. When Wang Xian saw Hu Mei's pleading gaze earlier, he looked at the 42nd prince with a cold gaze. I hate arrogant people like you the most. Not only did you abandon a woman, you even wanted to exterminate another family. Let me tell you, don't be too arrogant. Do you believe that I can exterminate you? Jiang Chuan raised his head slightly and took a few steps forward. He stared coldly at Wang Xian and said with a face full of disdain. Hiss, looks like this guy has angered the public. Even young Master Jiang Chuan can't stand it anymore. Jiang Chuan is the descendant of the Dean of the Divine Wind Academy. If he really wants to deal with this Wang Xian, he really has the ability to do so. I support young Master Jiang Chuan to kill this scumbag, haha. Young Master Jiang Chuan is so upright. I support you. When the surrounding people heard Jiang Chuan's words, they all looked over with admiration and admiration. When Jiang Chuan saw this scene, he raised his head slightly with a smile on his face. He glanced at Zhang Fengying, who was not far away, with a smug look in his eyes. He was standing at the highest point of justice. If he were to trample on a jerk, she would definitely look up to him. Wow, young Master Jiang Chuan is really handsome. Fengying, Jiang Chuan has been chasing you for such a long time. You should consider it. He's handsome, strong, and has a strong background. You have to stay away from this guy. Such a scumbag is really annoying. Xiaoya looked at Jiang Chuan, who stood up and spoke to Wang Xian in a domineering manner. A hint of admiration appeared on her face as she spoke to Zhang Fengying. Jiang Chuan, if you dare to touch my brother, you better consider the consequences. Long Xiaotian stared coldly at Jiang Chuan and said coldly, Humph, what? Long Xiaotian, do you think I'm afraid of you? Jiang Chuan's face turned cold when he saw Long Xiaotian threatening him. Second brother, it's good to protect your friend, but don't forget your heart and don't be too arrogant. Long Xiaoqian and the others took a few steps forward and said in a tit-for-tat manner. Everyone was slightly silent when they saw this scene. In the current Luhai region, the strongest few powers were the Blood Flow Empire and the Heaven Sword Sect. Next were the Hanhai Empire, the Light Dragon Empire, and the Divine Wind Academy. Long Xiaotian and Jiang Chuan were confronting each other. Other than those few forces, no one else had the right to interfere. However, many people were on Jiang Chuan's side this time. Wang Xian, is this true? At this moment, Zhang Fengying, who was standing at the side, walked towards Wang Xian and asked with a frown. Huh? Zhang Fengying walked out, causing many people to be slightly stunned. This was the first time many people had seen her. However, her outdated appearance and hot figure had attracted the attention of many people. It's the first time I've seen her. Wang Xian's face revealed a hint of bitterness as he spoke to Zhang Fengying. Damn it, he was framed by this woman. There was really no way to refute it. The other party's plan was simply foolproof. Fengying, do you know him? Jiang Chuan's expression changed slightly when he saw her walking out. He pretended to be surprised and said, Fengying, it's best for you to stay away from such a scumbag and arrogant guy. If he doesn't apologize to this lady today, I will definitely not let him off. As he spoke, he even pretended to be righteous and raised his head as though he was showing off his greatness. However, Zhang Fengying didn't even look at him. I believe you. Zhang Fengying nodded at Wang Xian and looked at the vixen. After sizing her up, she said to her directly, his looks are average and his figure is average. He won't take a fancy to you. You're the one who lied and framed him. Jiang Chuan was stunned when he heard Zhang Fengying's words. He opened his mouth slightly, and his face was filled with astonishment. Everyone around was stunned as well. They didn't expect this beautiful lady to say such words. You, who are you calling average-looking and average-looking? He pursued me for a long time and now he abandoned me. When Hu Mei heard Zhang Fengying say that she was average-looking, she revealed an angry expression. Her face was embarrassed and her body was trembling. You are indeed average. He has 6 wives, and each one of them is completely incomparable to you. There is no need for him to find someone like you. To put it bluntly, you are too ugly and unqualified. As Zhang Fengying spoke, she walked to Wang Xian's side and smiled at him. Following that, she stared at Hu Mei with a cold expression. A hint of coldness flashed in her eyes. You are a lady from the Fox clan. The Fox clan's bloodline is only at the first level of the see-through realm. I don't know why you are framing him. However, if you dare to cause trouble for no reason, be careful of your entire clan. As she spoke, a faint pressure emanated from her body. This was the pressure of a first-level see-through expert. Meow. Following that, the ice-fire civet cat that was hanging on her clothes jumped onto her shoulder. Its demonic eyes were sparkling. A murderous aura erupted from its body. This was also the murderous intent of an insightful emptiness realm expert. The aura that Zhang Fengying suddenly released shocked everyone around. Chapter 1296. 1296 Zhang Feng's domineering aura. You are a lady from the Fox clan. The Fox clan's bloodline is only at the first level of the see-through void tier. I don't know why you are framing him. However, if you dare to cause trouble again, be careful of your entire clan. Threatening words rang out once again. If Wang Xian threatened and Long Xiaotian threatened, everyone would understand. After all, Long Xiaotian was Wang Xian's brother. But who was this woman to him? She was as domineering and arrogant as Long Xiaotian. She directly threatened her entire family, and even used her powerful aura and killing intent to target the fox. This made everyone dumbfounded. However, compared to Zhang Fengying's domineering, and even a little arrogant, the strength she displayed shocked everyone. She was at least at the first level of the profound void tier. And what surprised everyone else was her pet. It looked like an ordinary kitten, but it exuded an even more terrifying power than hers. What? You? Hu Mei sensed Zhang Fengying's aura and killing intent, and her face changed dramatically. Her eyes were filled with fear. She was already somewhat regretful. She regretted agreeing to the 42nd prince, and regretting framing that young man. Not only did she offend the second prince of the Light Dragon dynasty, but she also offended this powerful woman. Fengying you. Jiang Chuan looked at Zhang Fengying, who had suddenly exploded. His face was as ugly as if he had eaten shit. His eyes were wide open and filled with disbelief. What was going on? Zhang Fengying was actually defending him under such circumstances. And she even wanted to kill the entire Foxy family. Just now, he was standing on the opposite side of that young man. He was standing at the highest point of justice. Under the circumstances where all the witnesses and evidence were present, he only believed the simple words of that young man. However, Wang Xian, who was standing at the side, was speechless when he heard her words. What did she mean by, I have 6 wives? What did she mean by, I don't need to find such a wife? Although it was the truth, and he was speaking up for him, Wang Xian still felt that something was amiss. Was he sure that he wasn't blackmailing him? Wow! This has 6 wives. Every one of them is beyond the reach of a seductive fox? A seductive fox looks pretty too. Oh my god, what a terrifying aura. She looks extremely young. How could she possess such terrifying strength? She is an insightful emptiness realm expert. Yet another extremely young insightful emptiness realm expert. See, who is this woman? Young Master Jiang Chuan seems to know her. Could she be from the Divine Wind Academy? She seems to be a teacher from the Divine Wind Academy. This is interesting. What is the relationship between this beautiful teacher from the Divine Wind Academy and that young man? He actually dares to offend the prince of the Light Dragon dynasty and Jiang Chuan for him? When everyone saw this scene, they were instantly in an uproar. A trace of shock appeared on everyone's faces. Suddenly, a beautiful teacher from the Divine Wind Academy appeared. She did not care about Jiang Chuan helping that young man. Jiang Chuan's great-grandfather was the principal of the school. He was one of the top experts in the Luhai region. Even Long Xiaotian, who was standing at the side, looked up at Wang Xian with a face full of admiration. 6 wives. Each of them was beyond the reach of a fox. Then, look at Zhang Fengying's looks and figure. Cowhide, role model. The 5 princes of the Light Dragon dynasty frowned as they looked at Zhang Fengying, and then at Jiang Chuan, whose expression was extremely ugly. The corners of their mouths twitched slightly. It seemed that Jiang Chuan didn't even have the qualifications to compete with that young man. Under such circumstances, if that beauty was so protective of him, what was the point of pursuing her? However, the more this was the case, the happier they were. This was the only way that Jiang Chuan would be even more determined to destroy that young man. At the thought of this, a faint smile appeared on the prince's faces. No, all of you are bullying me. When Humei saw that Jiang Chuan had stopped talking, and even the 42nd prince had stopped talking, a trace of fear appeared in her eyes. Feeling Zhang Fengying's aura, her somewhat broken body slowly collapsed. Sister Humei, let's go. The bad guys will eventually get their retribution. If anyone dares to bully your family members, the regiment commander will stand up for you. A woman frowned slightly when she saw the devastated Foxy. She walked over and spoke to her. Although Zhang Fengying was extremely powerful, most people still believed that it was true that Wang Xian had gotten rid of the Foxy. This was because all the evidence was right in front of them. There was no need for others to frame him in such a manner. However, the person who came out to help Wang Xian was too powerful. He was in the limelight, and was considered by most to be the second prince who would ascend to the throne of the Light Dragon dynasty. He was the powerful mentor of the Divine Wind Academy. These two forces were enough to crush most of the forces present. It's Sister Bei. Yes. Humei nodded her head in a slightly devastated manner. Her eyes were filled with panic. This time, she was not acting but was truly afraid. With the help of the woman, she stood up and glanced at the 42nd prince. If I remember correctly, you looked at that young man twice in a row. What is your relationship with him? Girls were usually more meticulous. When Zhang Fengying saw Humei looking at the 42nd prince again, her gaze was ice-cold as she asked. Haha, this beauty. Don't tell me you think I ordered you to do this? Let me tell you, some things cannot be said carelessly. A trace of discomfort flashed in the eyes of the 42nd prince. He instantly laughed out loud with a cold face and stared at him coldly. I've already said it, little 42, what can you do? It's not that I look down on you. But even if the 5 of you work together, I'm not afraid of you. Just as the 42nd prince finished speaking, Long Xiaotian narrowed his eyes slightly and swept his gaze over his brothers as he spoke arrogantly. Although his words were arrogant, he had the qualifications to do so. His words caused the faces of Long Xiaochen and the others to instantly darken. They stared at Long Xiaotian with faces full of anger. However, Long Xiaotian looked at them with a cold smile. When everyone around saw this scene, they sighed inwardly at the second prince. The important matter had already been settled halfway. The woman who was supporting the vixen frowned slightly. As a careful girl, she had also noticed that every time the vixen was threatened, she would look at the 42nd prince. Among them, however, she didn't think too much about it. After all, this vixen was in the same mercenary group as her. They could be considered good sisters. She supported the vixen and walked outside with an expressionless face. Some of the people around them looked at them, but didn't say anything. Their gaze swept past Zhang Fengying, who was beside Wang Xian. Their eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. Leader! At this moment, at the entrance of the back mountain, a group of people walked in front of Humei and another woman. They were slightly shocked. When they saw Tang Ling, who was walking beside them, they hurriedly shouted. The Cherry Blossom Mercenary Group was considered a relatively famous mercenary group in the cemetery of demi-humans. The reason why it was famous was not because of its powerful strength, but because of the founder and members of the mercenary group. The founder, Tang Ling was the princess of the Blood Flow Empire. She was one of the few girls on the prodigy roll and had a deep background. The members of the Cherry Blossom Mercenary Group were all girls from aristocratic families. They were all girls with outstanding strength. Chapter 1297. 1297 Under the domineering aura of 1298 Zhang Feng. What's going on? At the entrance of the Heavenly Sword Sect's back mountain, Tang Ling, stood beside a group of people. She looked at the bewitching fox and asked with a slight frown. Logically speaking, with her strength and background, it was absolutely impossible for her to stand at the side. But today, among this group of people, she really had to stand at the side. In the center was a slightly chubby young man. The young man had a smile on his face, and he looked very kind. Beside the young man were Tang Feng and Tang Yuan, her two older brothers. Beside her two older brothers were the slightly chubby middle-aged man's assistants. She was beside these people. Other than them, there were 7 or 8 other middle-aged young men. 2 of them were on the prodigy roll, and there were a few other young men. There were a few others who were already in their 50s or 60s, but they looked no different from youths. They were all experts who had been on the prodigy roll in the past. Their current strength was even stronger than some of the geniuses on the prodigy roll. Each and every one of them was an extremely famous character. Other than these geniuses and the former geniuses, there were also a few core disciples from the top-tier powers in the Bloodshed Empire. These top core disciples of the Blood Flow Empire had strong backgrounds. 2 of them were only slightly weaker than the Light Dragon Empire's Divine Wind Academy and the Boundless Sea Empire. The woman who was supporting the fox-like woman looked at the fox-like woman. Leader. When she saw Tang Ling, she slightly pursed her lips and her eyes flickered. Brother, you and Manager Qian can go in. Tang Ling said to Tang Feng and the others and looked at Hu Mei. Tell me what's the matter. Hu Mei hesitated for a moment and stammered out everything that had happened just now. What? There's really someone who dares to treat you like this. Let's go. I want to see what ability the other party has. Someone who dares to bully my people. When Tang Ling heard Hu Mei's staccato words, her expression was ice cold. Regiment Commander, no. There's no need. Hu Mei hurriedly walked over, her face slightly embarrassed. Don't worry. As long as I'm here in the Flowing Sea region, no one can do anything to you. No one dares to do anything to your clan. Tang Ling Yar's face was full of arrogance as she said, Follow me. As she said that, she directly walked inside. Hu Mei bit her lips. Her eyes were filled with worry and hatred. Seeing that Tang Ling had already walked over, she didn't dare to disobey and followed closely behind. The woman who was supporting her just now frowned slightly. She hesitated for a moment and did not join in. Instead, she walked to the side. In the back of the mountain, the people around had not dispersed. In fact, less than 2 minutes had passed. When everyone saw Manager Qian and the Prince of Blood Flow Empire arriving, some of them quickly walked over to greet them. Who's Wang Xian? Come out! A cold voice was heard, and once again attracted the attention of everyone around. When Tang Feng, Tang Yuan, and the rest heard their sister's voice, they looked over in puzzlement. Everyone around also quickly looked over. When they saw Tang Ling bringing Foxy over, everyone was slightly shocked. It's Princess Tang Ling heir. What is she trying to do? Foxy is a member of her Cherry Blossom mercenary group. Tang Ling might want to stand up for her. That Wang Xian is going to be in trouble now. Tang Ling is very strong and has a very strong personality. When the people in the surroundings saw Tang Ling bringing Foxy back, a hint of surprise appeared in their eyes. Many of them were gloating over Tang Ling Yar's misfortune. With Tang Ling coming forward to seek justice for Foxy, even Long Xiaotian was a little afraid. Is this an unexpected surprise? Long Xiaochen and the other princes, who already had bad expressions, saw Tang Ling Yar's appearance, and their eyes sparkled. This is also the reason why I asked the Foxy woman to go. A cold look flashed in the eyes of the 42nd prince at the side. This made Long Xiaochen and the other princes wary. This 42nd brother was not simple. Jiang Chuan, who was standing at the side and his expression kept changing, raised his eyebrows slightly when he saw this scene. However, even when he saw Tang Ling appearing, his expression still didn't look good. It was because Zhang Fengying's behavior just now made him very uncomfortable. Upon hearing Tang Ling voice, Wang Xian frowned slightly. He looked over. She naturally knew this Tang Ling the princess of the Blood Flow Empire. Long Xiaotian looked over, and his expression didn't look too good. Zhang Fengying stood quietly beside Wang Xian and looked at Tang Ling coldly. If you don't know the specific reason, don't get involved. Wang Xian didn't give her any face, just because she was the princess of the Blood Flow Empire. He said coldly, "Oh, you are Wang Xian, right? Are you very arrogant?" Tang Ling followed the voice and looked at Wang Xian. "Foxy is a member of my mercenary group. You bullied her and even dared to threaten her. Are you looking down on me? Now you'd better apologize to Foxy 3 times respectfully. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Tang Ling stared at Wang Xian aggressively and spoke to him in a commanding tone. "Princess Tang Ling, you have yet to understand the exact reason behind this matter. Can you deal with it after you've investigated it thoroughly?" Long Xiaotian squeezed out a smile and said with a smile, "Shut up. I'm asking you, do you want to apologize?" Tang Ling spoke to Long Xiaotian coldly without giving him any face. This made Long Xiaotian's expression extremely awkward. "So what if you don't apologize? So what if you're not polite?" Zhang Fengying looked at Tang Ling and coldly asked directly. Tang Ling was slightly stunned when she heard Zhang Fengying's words. She did not expect that someone would actually dare to speak to her like this. Moreover, he was so unyielding. Her gaze looked at Zhang Fengying. When she looked at her appearance and figure, her eyes flickered, and a faint trace of jealousy welled up in her heart. "If you don't apologize, the consequences will not be something you can bear." Tang Ling Yar's gaze was ice cold as she glared at Zhang Fengying. "HMPH, then we really want to see if we can bear it." Zhang Fengying stood there and spoke with a domineering expression. "You're courting death." When Tang Ling heard her words, her expression instantly turned ugly as a faint aura gushed out from her body. As a proud daughter of the heavens, she was second only to Ling Jianyar in the entire prodigy role. She was confident that other than Ling Jianyar, her strength could dominate the entire Luhai region. The Zhang Fengying in front of her definitely did not look much older than her. As a proud daughter of the heavens, the aura she emitted could not be underestimated. However, she was facing Zhang Fengying, who possessed the Icefire Civet Cat and the entire inheritance of the 100 Patrol Elders. "Put away your imposing manner. If you were to make a move yourself, we can bear the consequences," Zhang Fengying said faintly to Tang Ling. His tone was very calm, but he was still full of dominance and strength when facing the Blood Flow Empire's princess. When everyone around saw that Zhang Fengying was willing to offend the Blood Flow Empire's princess for the sake of Wang Xian, they were slightly shocked. At this moment, Zhang Fengying was like, even if Wang Xian had committed all sorts of evil deeds, she would still follow him. Even if Wang Xian was the enemy of the world, she would still follow him and become the enemy of the world. Chapter 1298. 1298 One collided. On the back mountain of the entire Heavenly Sword Sex Island, everyone was stunned as they watched the 2 women clash head-on. One was the Blood Flow Empire's princess, the proud daughter of the heavens on the prodigy role. The other was the mysterious and powerful Divine Wind Academy's beautiful teacher, an expert at the profound void realm. If one were to talk about background, it was naturally the Blood Flow Empire's princess Tang Ling who was stronger. However, Zhang Fengying's dominance left everyone dumbfounded. What is the relationship between this beauty and that young man? To think that he offended Princess Tang Ling for him. If their relationship is average, I wouldn't believe it at all. Could it be that this beautiful teacher is also Wang Xian's old lover? It's possible. Otherwise, she wouldn't protect him like this. Zhang Fengying, who was standing beside Wang Xian, had a glint in her eyes. There were 2 situations where a woman could offend an organization that could not be provoked for a man. One of them was the relationship between a mother and a child or a relative. The other was the relationship between a lover. Obviously, they were most likely the latter. Jiang Chuan's face turned completely black when he saw Zhang Fengying protecting that guy so forcefully. Then he felt that his head was a little muddled. This woman that he had spent so much effort to get had actually sacrificed so much for someone else. This made him feel like he was crowned a cuckold. Although this was also his narcissistic coronation. But it still made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Tang Ling Yar's face instantly changed when she heard Zhang Fengying's words. She felt his profound aura, and her small face instantly turned red. Which family are you from? Slowly, Tang Ling Er's expression turned cold. She stared at Zhang Fengying with murderous intent in her eyes. I don't represent any power. Zhang Fengying replied coldly. Wang Xian looked at Zhang Fengying in front of him and smiled. There are some things that Princess Tang Ling doesn't understand. Please don't make trouble without reason. He turned his gaze to Tang Ling and said faintly, Princess Tang Ling regarding the matters of your subordinates, I, Long Xiaotian, will give you an explanation in the future. I hope that you will give me some face. I will apologize to you here first. Long Xiaotian felt a little helpless when he saw Zhang Fengying and Wang Xian being so domineering. He apologized to Tang Ling Tang Ling stood there and her expression kept changing. At this moment, the surroundings were silent. Even the powerhouses at the first or second level of the see-through realm remained silent when they saw this scene. They were watching silently from the side. At the edge, Tang Feng and Tang Yuan, who had just followed her in, raised their brows slightly when they saw their sister's situation. A hint of coldness flashed in their eyes. They looked at Long Xiaotian and exchanged a glance. You guys go over there. How dare you bully our sister? Hee. Tang Feng and Tang Yuan gestured to the group of young men beside them and said indifferently. Yes. The proud son of heaven beside them nodded. His eyes flickered as he walked straight over. Even if it's only us, Princess Tang Ling alone, the consequences are not something you can bear. I advise you to do as the princess says. Apologize and nothing will happen. Otherwise, you will be making an enemy out of us. Just as the entire situation was in a stalemate, a young man's voice was heard. A few footsteps were heard. They raised their heads slightly and walked proudly behind Tang Ling Yar. They came to Tang Ling Yar's side and stood directly behind her. Their eyes were staring at Wang Xian, Zhang Fengying and the rest. Their eyes were filled with coldness. These are the Heaven's Favorites on the Heaven's Favorites list. The other three have been on the Heaven's Favorites list before. Oh my god. That's Hongshan. He used to be the second strongest Heaven's Favorite on the Heaven's Favorites list. He's already 60 years old now, but his strength has already reached the first level of the see-through void tier. I knew it. Tang Ling didn't come here by herself. Chapter 1299. People collided. He didn't give Princess Tang Ling any face. This Wang Xian is so arrogant. He has some qualifications to be arrogant. He has two beasts at the first level of the profound void tier under him. Arrogant. Let's not talk about the scumbag thing he did to the fox. Even if he is arrogant to Princess Tang Ling I don't think this kid will live for long. Among the few Heaven's Favorites behind Tang Ling some of them have powerful families. Their families also have experts at the second or third level of the see-through realm. This kid is probably courting death. Good. It would be good if such an ungrateful bastard was killed. When the surrounding people saw Wang Xian's domineering and arrogant words, they were all stunned. However, following that, some of them showed disdain on their faces. Although Tang Ling Yar's identity could not represent the entire bloodshed empire, she was not someone that ordinary insightful void martial artists could bully. If a kid dared to clash with Princess Tang Ling to the end, he would definitely pay a heavy price. Alright. When Tang Ling heard Wang Xian's domineering words, her face turned cold. However, very soon, a smile appeared on her face. Since that's the case, I will let you witness it within a day. Princess Tang Ling you don't have to do anything about this. Leave it to me. A brat still dares to be arrogant towards you. If this isn't the Sword Whisper Sex Sky Sword Lingyun Association, I'll let him die here right now. I'd like to see what qualifications you have to be arrogant here. The few elites behind Tang Ling narrowed their eyes slightly. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with killing intent. All right. Tang Ling nodded her head and looked at Long Xiaotian. If anyone dares to help him, they would be making an enemy out of me. Princess Tang Ling, don't worry. If my second brother dares to help, we will help you to stop him. Haha. Long Xiaotian laughed out loud when he heard Tang Ling Yar's words, and said fawningly from the side. Don't worry, princess. No one can help him outside the Heavenly Sword Sect's island. The group of Heaven's favorites behind him stared coldly at Wang Xian, and curled their lips in disdain. Even if a kid had a pet at the first level of the see-through void tier, even if he had the help of the lady beside him, it was still suicidal to go against Tang Ling and them. To kill them, it was a piece of cake for the group of Heaven's favorites to rely on their family's influence. When Long Xiaotian heard their words, his expression changed drastically, and he looked worried. The people around him were gloating at Wang Xian, especially Long Xiaotian and the other princes. They couldn't hide the smile on their faces, and almost burst out laughing. Wang Xian swept his gaze across all of them, and a hint of coldness appeared on his face. They still wanted to kill him? It was simply wishful thinking. When the time came, it was uncertain who would kill who. Whoever dares to deal with him, you will have to ask the sword in my hand. Just when the atmosphere was a little heavy, a cold voice was suddenly heard. The sudden voice caused everyone to be slightly stunned. Their faces were filled with astonishment. What was going on? At this moment, there was still someone who dared to stand up for Wang Xian and the rest. Tang Ling had just released the words that whoever dared to help him would become his enemy. The group of Heaven's favorites even swore to kill him. Under such circumstances, who would dare to stand up for him? When Wang Xian heard this familiar voice, he was also slightly stunned as he looked in front of him. In front of him, a young man with a huge sword in his hand walked over. Compared to his tattered clothes from before, he had slightly long hair at this moment. He had sharp eyes and was dressed in golden clothing. In the middle of the golden clothing, there was the word large sword. Looking at the young man walking over to him, he raised his eyebrows, and a smile appeared on his face. The young man holding the sword was naturally Ren Xingqian. Behind him, there were more than 10 Sword Whisper sect disciples. These disciples stood behind him and looked at him with some respect. When they saw Ren Xingqian suddenly speaking, they were slightly shocked. However, they didn't say anything. That's Ren Xingqian. It's Ren Xingqian. It's actually him. Why is he wearing the uniform of the Heaven Sword Sect? Could it be? The Heaven Sword Sect is announcing that a disciple has joined today? Could it be him? Ren Xingqian has joined the Heaven Sword Sect. Hiss! Ren Xingqian has actually joined the Heavenly Sword Sect. However, what is the relationship between this Ren Xingqian and Wang Xian? Why would he say such a thing? Everyone was shocked. Everyone understood Ren Xingqian's strength. A peerless Heaven's favorite with dual attributes was able to fight against a powerhouse at the first level of the see-through realm. If it wasn't for the appearance of the nameless sword demon, he could be said to be the most dazzling existence and the strongest dark horse in this year's prodigy role. Seeing him joining the Heavenly Sword Sect, everyone was a little surprised. What was even more surprising was that under everyone's gaze, he walked straight towards Wang Xian. However, at the next moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Ren Xingqian walked to Wang Xian's side and bowed respectfully. He bowed heavily. When everyone saw this scene, they were a little dumbfounded. Ren Xingqian was a peerless Heaven's favorite of the current generation. He was a dual-attributed genius who was comparable to a powerhouse at the first level of the see-through void stage. Now he was actually bowing respectfully to that young man. This bowing contained a lot of things. When Wang Xian saw Ren Xingqian walking over, a faint smile appeared on his face. Although this Ren Xingqian was rather stubborn, he was still more obedient. Ling Jian should be the one who relayed his words to him when he joined the Heavenly Sword Sect. He had also obtained his true identity from Ling Jian. Clang! Ren Xingqian stood beside Wang Xian. The huge sword in his hand let out a cold sound. The long sword in his hand was pointed straight at Tang Ling Yar's position. This sword finger caused everyone to reveal a look of horror. "You bunch of trash want to deal with him." Ren Xingqian's cold voice came from his mouth. His sword covered Tang Ling, and all the heaven's favorites behind him. His words caused Tang Ling, and the other heaven's favorites behind him to have a drastic change in expression. Their expressions instantly turned gloomy and cold. A moment ago, they were still saying that whoever dared to help him would become their enemy. No one could save such words. The next moment, Ren Xingqian rushed over and pointed his fierce longsword at him. This matter was a little too serious. In particular, everyone looked at Ren Xingqian's clothes. A few days ago, the Heavenly Sword sect had sent news that a new disciple would be announced at the Heavenly Sword Lingyun meet today. This disciple was obviously Ren Xingqian. Ren Xingqian's strength and talent definitely belonged to the most outstanding and core disciple of the entire Heavenly Sword sect. Now Ren Xingqian, who was ranked second on the prodigy roll, was standing directly beside that young man to confront Tang Ling. What was he trying to do? A confrontation between the Blood Flow Empire and the Heavenly Sword sect? Chapter 1300. 1300 collided. This is crazy. What is the relationship between Ren Xingqian and that young man? He actually bowed directly to that young man, and even pointed his greatsword at Tang Ling, and the others. Who knows? Looking at the situation, it's completely a head-on clash. Ren Xingqian is a peerless Heaven's Pride, and there aren't many Heaven's Pride experts who can compare to him. The few Heaven's Pride experts behind Princess Tang Ling are completely unqualified to compare to him. The most important thing is his identity. Heaven's Sword Sect. A core disciple of Heaven's Sword Sect had a conflict with the Princess of the Blood Flow Empire? What is he trying to do? For a young man, first it was the second prince of the Light Dragon Empire, Long Xiaotian, then the mentor of the Divine Wind Academy, Zhang Fengying, and now it's the peerless Heaven's favorite of Heaven's Sword Sect, Ren Xingqian. Everyone looked at Ren Xingqian, who was standing beside Wang Xian in a daze. Such a peerless prodigy actually offended Tang Ling, of the Bloodshed Empire for a young man. Regardless of the reason, Ren Xingqian was indeed qualified to confront Tang Ling head-on. With the current strength of the Heaven Sword sect, even the Bloodshed Empire was fearful of them. Ren Xingqian, the core disciple of the Heaven Sword sect, was not inferior to the Princess of the Bloodshed Empire in terms of status. In fact, he was even slightly stronger, because Ren Xingqian's future was not something Tang Ling could compare to. And the Blood Flow Empire had hundreds of princes and princesses. Ren Xingqian, you have to stand up for this guy. Tang Ling looked at Ren Xingqian's clothes, and her expression changed slightly. She stared at him and said with embarrassment, "Tang Ling, watch your words. Just based on the group of trash behind you, if you want to deal with him, ask the sword in my hand whether it will agree or not. If you don't have the strength, then get lost." Ren Xingqian's gaze was as cold as an ice-cold sword as he coldly said to them. He didn't give them any face at all. He also had the strength to look down on Tang Ling, and the group of Heaven's Pride experts. The elites standing behind Tang Ling looked at the domineering Ren Xingqian with an extremely ugly expression. They opened their mouths, wanting to retort. But in front of his powerful strength, they really didn't dare. Most importantly, the other party was a disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect. Today's Heavenly Sword Lingyun gathering, all the forces in the Luhai region came to congratulate him, including the Blood Flow Empire. It was because of the breakthrough in the strength of the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect. The breakthrough in the strength of the sect master of the Heaven Sword sect had raised the status of the entire Heaven Sword sect's disciples by a level. In the past, they were on the same level as the Divine Wind Academy of the Light Dragon Empire. Now they were no longer a match for the Heaven Sword sect. The people who are defending that Wang Xian are all more overbearing and arrogant than the last one. Yeah, that beauty just now didn't give Tang Ling any face at all. If it weren't for a few Heaven's favorites coming over, Tang Ling would have lost face. Now that Ren Xingqian is here, He's not giving them any face at all. A conflict between a disciple of the Sky Sword sect and the princess of the Blood Flow Empire. This won't cause an even bigger dispute, right? When the surrounding people saw this scene, they sucked in a breath of cold air. What happened today was really out of everyone's expectations. First, it was the competition between the princes of the Light Dragon dynasty, then Jiang Chuan's participation, and finally, it involved the two top forces in the Luhai region. Everyone present could only watch silently. The reason for all of this came from a girl. Come, let's go. Manager Qian will go first. At the side, Tang Feng and Tang Yuan had solemn expressions on their faces when they saw Ren Xingchen suddenly appear. They spoke to Manager Qian and walked straight towards Tang Linger. As guests of your Heavenly Sword sect, is this how you treat your guests? Tang Feng and Tang Yuan walked over and looked coldly at Ren Xingchen, who was holding a large sword in his hand. Two princes. This time the matter has blown up. When some people saw them walking over, their eyes sparkled as they quietly stood at the side and watched. You also know that this is the Heavenly Sword sect's territory. You're the ones who directly threatened our friends here. You're the ones who were unreasonable in the first place. How can there be guests like you? When Ren Xingchen saw Tang Feng and Tang Yuan walking over, his face didn't have the slightest fluctuation. If he didn't dare to humiliate my subordinates, would I have caused trouble for him? Tang Ling stared at Ren Xingchen with a somewhat embarrassed expression as she coldly said, "You don't even know the truth of the matter, yet you're listening to her one-sided story. You're really stupid." Zhang Fengying looked at Tang Ling and said disdainfully, "You." Tang Ling stared at Zhang Fengying, her eyes filled with killing intent. "Ren Xingchen, I don't know what relationship that kid has with you, but you're not giving face to our bloodshed empire. Aren't you being too arrogant?" Tang Feng narrowed his eyes slightly and stared coldly at Ren Xingchen. "Ling Jian, Yar is here. Some disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect in Ling Jian Air are here. Look at Ling Jian Yar. Oh my god, she's so beautiful, so beautiful. Yeah, she's simply too beautiful. In the past, Ling Jian basically wore that white shirt. Now wow, it's pink. Oh my god, she's simply too beautiful." This goddess in the past, when Ling Jian wasn't dressed up, there weren't many people who could compare to her. Now that she's slightly dressed up, she's even more beautiful. Look at the disposition of goddess Ling Jian. She seems to have undergone a huge change. In the past she was incomparably cold. Now she looks a little sweet. Right at this moment, sounds of exclamations could be heard from outside. Tang Feng, Tang Yuan, and the others who were standing in the middle were slightly taken aback. As for the dispute, everyone stopped. Everyone looked outside, and when they saw the beauty in the pink dress, they were all stunned. A pink dress. A little makeup. She looked incomparably exquisite, and her perfect figure caused the eyes of all the men present to light up slightly. Even the girls present felt a little ashamed of their inferiority when they looked at Ling Jian. However, what surprised everyone was that Ling Jian actually wore a pink dress. This was a huge difference from their impression of the ice-cold woman. Ling Jian has changed so much, to actually wear a pink dress and look much more cheerful. It should be because of his father. It should be. A true goddess. With Ling Jian current status, even a prince of the Blood Flow Empire can't compare to her, right? Unless it's a prince who has inherited the throne, he can't compare to her. The rest are all inferior. Everyone's gaze was attracted over. As they looked at Ling Jian, each of their faces revealed an astonished expression. This goddess was the true second generation of the Flowing Sea region. Not long ago, her father directly killed several profound void martial experts of the vast empire, and killed the prince who was attacking her. Chapter 1301. 1301 was a man that even a goddess couldn't have. Apart from the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect using his tyrannical strength to break into the Hanhai dynasty's imperial city, there was another matter that shocked many people. Back then, on the day that Ling Jian was besieged, The Heavenly Sword sect disciples who didn't lend a helping hand were all crippled of their cultivation. This included a very outstanding core disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect, who had a great relationship with the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect. Now, there were rumors among the Heavenly Sword sect disciples that the sect master's breakthrough was because he had broken through the demonic barrier from more than 10 years ago. He had comprehended a powerful guardian Dharma idol. As for who the guardian Dharma idol was, everyone was very clear. The Heavenly Sword sect had once sent 20 profound void martial experts to bring Ling Jianer back, but in the end, she had directly rejected them, not giving them any face at all. Later on, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect had come personally. Some people saw that the first time, he had been directly rejected by Ling Jianer. Later on, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect used some unknown method to move his daughter, and only then did he bring her back to his side. The entire Heavenly Sword sect knew what kind of status Ling Jianer currently held in the Heavenly Sword sect. No one could compare to her. Looking at the beautiful Ling Jianer walking over, Manager Qian's eyes lit up, revealing a heated expression. Many of the men around him were the same. If they could get this woman, they would be able to save thousands of years of effort. To be able to leap to become the top existence in the entire Luhai region. Thank you all for being able to participate in today's Heavenly Sword Lingyun meet. This time, we are mainly inviting the elite disciples of the younger generation. Of course, there are also experts. Our Sky Sword sect has no other intentions. We just want to announce two things. First, the young miss of our Sky Sword sect has returned. Second, Ren Xingchen will join our Sky Sword sect and become a core disciple of the Sky Sword sect. Ling Jianer walked to the front and stopped. Beside him, an elder stood by her side and spoke to everyone. Ling Jianer, who was standing beside him, did not listen to the old man. Her gaze swept across the entire venue. When she saw Wang Xian, her eyes lit up slightly. Visitors or guests? I will go over to thank everyone one by one in a while. The old man spoke for more than 10 sentences before he ended the conversation. Even a powerhouse at level 4 of the see-through void tier of the Heavenly Sword sect addressed Ling Jianer as Miss. This position is too high. When everyone on the back mountain of the Heavenly Sword sect heard the old man addressing Ling Jianer, their faces revealed a look of surprise. A 4th-rank profound void martial expert was already a top-tier expert in the Flowing Sea region. His status was extremely noble. Even the kings of some countries only had this level of cultivation. Even so, for such an expert to address Ling Jianer as Miss, one could imagine her status in the Heavenly Sword sect. However, what everyone didn't know was that Ling Jianer was able to obtain her current status, not only because of her father's unlimited love. There was also her own strength. Now the upper echelons of the Heavenly Sword sect all knew that Ling Jianer had obtained a terrifying opportunity. In the future, her achievements were very likely to be above that of the sect leader. Miss, do you want to get acquainted with some disciples? After the old man finished speaking, he asked Ling Jianer in a low voice. I'm going to meet a friend. Ling Jianer shook her head with a smile on her face as she walked straight ahead. Oh! The old man was slightly stunned as he thought of the words of the Grand Elder. His eyes flickered, and he did not bother about it anymore. Goddess Ling Jianer, you are simply too beautiful. Can I treat you to a cup of wine? Ling Jianer walked forward. Shopkeeper Qian, who was standing not too far away, had a fiery look in his eyes as he walked over with 2 cups of wine in his hands. Some of those who knew Shopkeeper Qian had a look of shock on their faces. However, Ling Jianer acted as though he did not see him as he walked past him. This caused Shopkeeper Qian's face to instantly freeze up as his expression changed slightly. Some of the people who noticed this were also slightly stunned. However, they soon started to laugh secretly. Goddess Ling Jianer doesn't know your identity as Manager Qian. Manager Qian took a deep breath and allowed his facial expression to return to normal. He looked at Ling Jianer's figure with some displeasure. I'm a little late. If I had known earlier, I would have come with Brother Wang Xian and Long Xiaotian. At this moment, a well-dressed young man who had just entered the island of the Heavenly Sword sect said plainly. There was a hint of arrogance on his face. This temperament would make many young men feel inferior. Young master, it's not too late. A few insightful emptiness realm experts from the Yen clan said fawningly from the side. The young man nodded his head indifferently, his gaze unwavering. This was an innate nobility, not posturing. Goddess Ling Jian, how do you do? Ling Jian, how do you do? In the conference hall at the back mountain of the island, Ling Jian walked in. Many young men looked at her beautiful figure and could not help but greet her. Ling Jian nodded her head indifferently, her eyes never leaving the area in front of her. Who is Ling Jian looking for? Ren Xingqian? Ren Xingqian and Ling Jian seemed to have known each other not too long ago. Could it be that This is really possible. A perfect match, but why is my heart broken? Ah, my goddess. Some people saw Ling Jian walking towards Ren Xingqian without paying any attention to anyone. Their hearts ached as they guessed. At Ren Xingqian's side, Ling Jianyar's appearance made Tang Ling Tang Feng, and the others no longer oppose her. After all, they didn't come here today to make enemies. When they saw Ling Jian walking over, Tang Feng and Tang Yuan's eyes flashed with astonishment. Under everyone's gaze, when everyone thought that Ling Jian was about to walk to Ren Xingqian's side, in the end, she directly ignored Ren Xingqian. Ling Jian didn't even glance at Ren Xingqian and continued to take a few steps forward. In the end, she stayed by Wang Xian's side. However, the next moment everyone widened their eyes. How is it? Am I pretty? They saw Ling Jian standing in front of Wang Xian. She slightly loosened her dress and revealed a happy smile on her face. Wang Xian stood there and looked at Ling Jian, who was wearing a pink dress. He was filled with surprise. Ling Jian walked towards him. He was not surprised at all. After all, this beauty who had a problem with her brain had once confessed to him. Furthermore, he had rejected her. However, Ling Jian had undergone a huge change compared to the past. In the past, he was extremely cold. His cold appearance was like a sword. Now he was much more open-minded and feminine, especially with this pink dress. You are much prettier and more cheerful. However, I don't want you. You shouldn't have any other thoughts. I'm a man that you can't have. Wang Xian looked at Ling Jianyar's expectant gaze and said with a serious expression. The moment he said that, everyone's jaws dropped. Chapter 1302. 1302 Get lost. You are much prettier and more cheerful. However, I don't want you. It's better if you don't have any other thoughts. I'm a man that you can't have. When these words were said, the lively surroundings became quiet. Everyone looked at Wang Xian in astonishment. They looked at his serious face as if he wasn't joking. However, Ling Jian, who was standing beside Wang Xian, was a little disappointed. Didn't you say that I'm not pretty enough, and that you don't like my cold appearance? Am I not pretty enough now? Furthermore, do I still look cold now? Ling Jian looked at Wang Xian and said in a low voice filled with disappointment. When Wang Xian heard her words, his body stiffened slightly. He shook his head slightly and didn't say anything else. Is she one of the 6 wives you mentioned? Do you like this? When Ling Jian saw that Wang Xian didn't reply, she frowned slightly and looked at Zhang Fengying who was beside her. Her words were a little shocking. If I'm not. He's not a good person. You better be careful. When Zhang Fengying saw Ling Jian, who suddenly appeared, she frowned and glanced at Wang Xian with a frosty expression. Her eyes were filled with disdain and disdain. I didn't expect you to have so many confidants. It has only been a short while since we arrived at the tomb of the transvestite, and you have already let such a beautiful woman follow you. As she spoke, her words were filled with sarcasm. However, anyone could tell that this woman was jealous. Everyone around was completely stunned. They looked at the conversation between the 3 of them in a daze. This was fucking dog food. Moreover, it was the dog food that countless men envied. Everyone looked at Wang Xian. If eyes could kill, he would be dead already. Who is this guy? What did he do to make Ling Jianer confess to him without caring about her status? Furthermore, that guy actually rejected him. Oh my god, what is going on? That guy. Fuck, how could he do this? Oh my god. How could such a scumbag be liked by two goddesses? What did he do? Isn't he Long Xiaoqian's brother? How could he be so awesome? Exactly. How could such a scumbag who abandoned his seductive charm be liked by goddess Ling Jian? This. No wonder Ren Xingqian is so respectful to him. It's because of Ling Jian. I really hope Tang Yuan and Tang Feng can get rid of this fellow. The corners of the mouths of the surrounding youths twitched, and their eyes turned slightly red. This was Ling Jianyar's pursuit. What right did he have? However, what shocked them even more was that fellow actually rejected Ling Jianyar's confession. Moreover, listening to their conversation, this was not the first time he had rejected. Oh my god, even such a goddess rejected him. Ling Jian was frowning when she heard the voices around her. Her eyes revealed a cold expression. What are you saying? Her cold gaze looked at the young man who said the last sentence. The young man who said that he hoped Tang Feng and Tang Yuan could kill Wang Xian. The young man felt Ling Jianyar's cold gaze, and his breathing stopped. He squeezed out a wailing smile on his face. Miss, just now, a disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect told her what had happened in a low voice. This caused Ling Jianyar's face to slowly turn cold. She looked ahead and swept her gaze across Tang Ling, Tang Feng and the rest. Finally, her gaze landed on the fox. With your looks, you are not qualified to tempt Wang Xian, or even abandon you. I don't know why you want to frame her. I will investigate this matter clearly. At that time, you will not be the only one who will be in trouble. Your family will also be in trouble. Ling Jianer stared at the fox-like woman coldly, and said directly, I. The fox-like woman looked at Ling Jianyar's tone that carried a hint of killing intent. She could not help but shed tears once again. She, who had already broken down once again saw despair. Suddenly, the fox-like woman took 2 quick breaths. She rolled her eyes and fainted. She was dealt a blow that was dozens of times stronger than her. She even threatened to exterminate her entire clan, causing her to faint. Forget it. Wang Xian shook his head at Ling Jian, when he saw her frosty expression. Hume was merely a chess piece. The main culprits were the few princes of the Guanglong Empire. Wang Xian and Long Xiaotian would soon let these few princes know what despair was. In the territory of the Heavenly Sword sect, no one can frame you or bully you. They don't have the strength and qualifications to do so. Ling Jian looked at Wang Xian and returned to her usual cold expression. After she finished speaking, she looked at Tang Ling and said, "Bring your men and get out of here immediately. If Wang Xian is injured in the future, I will definitely look for you." Ling Jianyar's unscrupulous words stunned everyone. Even Tang Ling, Tang Feng, and Tang Yuan were stunned, not to mention the group of heaven's favorites behind her. Unscrupulous, too unscrupulous. She was the daughter of the sect leader of the Heaven's Sword sect. Now, she actually disregarded the big picture and directly provoked the princess of the Bloodshed Empire for a man. An ordinary person would definitely not do such a reckless thing. But Ling Jianer did it. Not only did she do it, she even did it thoroughly. She directly told Tang Ling, and the other elites behind her to scram. If this were to spread, where would Tang Ling Yar's face be? You, Ling Jianer, do you know what you're saying? When Tang Linger heard Ling Jianer's words, she was so angry that her body was trembling. She actually wanted her to get out. She was the princess of the Blood Flow Empire, and today, she was invited to the Heavenly Sword sect's Lingyun gathering. This was giving face to the Heavenly Sword sect. Now, she actually wanted her to get out. If she was really kicked out, then where would her face go in the future? Even the face of the Blood Flow Empire wouldn't look good. Your subordinates are framing him, yet you still dare to threaten him here. Do you really think this place is your bloody dynasty? I want you all to get out. Didn't you hear me? Ling Jianer stared at Tang Linger and said coldly once again. This caused Tang Linger's face to turn from red to white, and then from white to green. I want her to get out. I actually want her to get out. Looking at Ling Jianer's cold expression, she was almost driven mad with anger. Everyone around stared blankly. This Ling Jianer was actually so overbearing for a man. It was simply, Ling Jianer, don't go too far. Don't think that just because you are sect leader Ling's daughter, you dare to humiliate us. Don't think that just because your father has broken through, our blood flow empire will be afraid of you. Tang Feng and Tang Yuan looked at Ling Jianer with ashen faces. Just now Ling Jianyar's appearance, Tang Ling, and the others had already let it go. They didn't expect that as the host, Ling Jianyar would actually be so overbearing as to ask Tang Ling to get lost. Did she really think that blood flow empire was easy to bully? Chapter 1303. 1303 Manager Qian of the third largest trading company in the world, 1304. Hiss this. Tang Feng, Tang Yuan, and the rest have spoken. What's going on? If we don't handle this properly today, it might affect the relationship between the Blood Flow Empire and the Heavenly Sword sect. It might even cause a huge dispute. Who would have thought that a fox and that Wang Xian would actually cause such a huge incident? Judging from the confessions of the teachers of the Divine Wind Academy, Zhang Fengying and Ling Jianer, that Wang Xian might really have been framed. Framed? Then why did the vixen frame him? However, he didn't even accept Ling Jianer and that Zhang Fengying. He shouldn't have taken a fancy to the vixen. It's troublesome now. If they start a dispute, it will cause a huge sensation. When Tang Feng and Tang Yuan walked out and stared at Ling Jianer with ugly expressions, everyone could not help but take in a breath of cold air. The eyes of everyone in the surroundings flickered as they looked over. A few experts from the Heavenly Sword sect also looked over. When they saw this scene, they shook their heads helplessly. They did not go over. Everything would be handled according to how happy their young miss was. Although today's matter would affect their relationship with the Blood Flow Empire, it would not affect them too much. It was impossible for two powerful factions to start a war because of the conflict between the younger generation. No matter who it is, if they dare to say that they want to kill him or bully him, they will have to pay the price. It is already good enough for them to get lost. I did not say that killing them is already giving face to your blood flow empire. Ling Jian stared coldly at Tang Feng and Tang Yuan. She did not relent just because of their words. This caused Tang Feng, Tang Yuan, and Tang Ling Yar's expressions to turn extremely ugly. Their eyes flickered as they stared at her. Are the few of you going to get lost on your own? Or do you want me to help you get lost? Ren Xingchen held a huge sword in his hand. His gaze was filled with killing intent as he stared at Tang Ling, and the group of Heaven's Pride experts behind him. He immediately threatened them. Arrogant. Each of them was more arrogant than the last. Regardless of whether you are a princess, a prince, or a Heaven's favorite, as long as you provoke Wang Xian, you must get out immediately. Wang Xian looked at Ling Jian, and Ren Xingchen speechlessly. The personalities of these two people really made him speechless. However, Wang Xian was slightly gratified towards them. It was not in vain for him to have saved their lives back then. Such a friend could be made. Good. Ling Jian, we the Bloodshed Empire, will remember what happened to your Heavenly Sword sect today. Tang Ling glared at Ling Jian angrily. This was the first time she was chased out directly by someone. This was the first time in the entire Luhai region. She would definitely return the humiliation today. Tang Feng and Tang Yuan took a deep breath when they saw Ling Jianer's domineering manner. A cold glint flashed in their eyes. They were a little unwilling to leave this place like this. However, facing the current Heavenly Sword sect, they were no longer afraid of the Blood Flow Empire's forces. They were no longer afraid of the other party when they brought out their strength. The two of them looked at each other and looked towards the back. How disappointing. Manager Qian was displeased when he saw the two of them looking at him. He had originally planned to get to know more forces in the Luhai region through Tang Feng and the others. However, he didn't expect such a thing to happen. What made him even angrier was that Ling Jian completely ignored him when he toasted to Ling Jian just now. He even walked to the side of the young man and confessed to him. This made his expression extremely ugly. He was a disciple of the Qian family of the third largest trading company in the world, but he was actually ignored by a lady from a faction in the Luhai region. This made him feel extremely humiliated. As a result, his heart was filled with a faint killing intent towards Wang Xian. Harmony, Miss Ling Jianyar. Harmony begets wealth. The cause of this matter is that your friend abandoned Miss Tang Ling Yar's subordinate, and her subordinate was just a little angry. Nothing much happened. Why did he chase Miss Tang Ling out? This isn't good. Since he abandoned a woman, then it doesn't matter if he apologizes to her. As for Miss Tang Ling, it's also for the good of her subordinate. This matter is just an apology from that young man. Simply, let him apologize to Miss Tang Ling Yar, and this matter will be over. The slightly chubby young man, shopkeeper Qian, walked forward with a smile on his face, and said indifferently. Seeing the slightly chubby young man suddenly walk forward, and hearing his words, the surrounding people were slightly stunned. Many people's pupils constricted slightly. Oh, that young man is? The elder from the Heavenly Sword sect looked at shopkeeper Qian, and looked at the middle-aged man beside him with a surprised expression. The middle-aged man next to him looked at shopkeeper Qian's figure with a slightly unpleasant expression. Elder, this is a bit troublesome. Shopkeeper Qian is the third trading company in the world in charge of the Flowing Sea region. He has a deep background, and is not someone that any faction in the Flowing Sea region can provoke. The middle-aged man said with a grave expression, as he looked at shopkeeper Qian, who was walking toward the center. The third trading firm in the world. The elder from the Sky Sword sect was slightly startled as he slowly frowned. For the third trading firm in the world to be able to achieve such a feat, it was not an ordinary faction. In reality, the third trading firm in the world represented an allied faction. The third trading firm in the world was controlled by the Qian family, which was famous for doing business. However, in reality, behind the Qian family, there were a few terrifying factions as shareholders. The Qian family had only reached its current stage, thanks to the support of the several terrifying factions behind it. Any of the factions behind the Qian family could annihilate all of the factions in the Flowing Sea region. They absolutely couldn't afford to provoke them. The old man hesitated for a moment, frowning as he looked at shopkeeper Qian. He had already made some decisions in his heart. They could not afford to offend such a force. They could not afford to offend Manager Qian. Is it Manager Qian? It's him, the person in charge of the Luhai district of the third largest trading company in the world. Hiss, Manager Qian. Everyone has overlooked such a huge figure. What does Manager Qian mean? He wants Wang Xian to apologize to Tang Ling. He wants to help the people of the Bloodshed Empire, Tang Feng and the rest. The third largest trading company in the world is a businessman. The Blood Flow Empire is very important to them. Of course, they have to speak up for Tang Feng and the rest. This is troublesome. This Manager Qian is not someone the Heavenly Sword sect can afford to offend. Some of the people around who knew about Manager Qian's background looked at him in surprise. Their eyes were sparkling. From his 3 sentences just now, it was obvious that he wanted to help Tang Feng and the rest. Furthermore, he did not agree to kick Tang Ling and the rest out. However, Manager Qian didn't offend the Death Heaven Sword sect. He just wanted that young man to apologize. Hee. Seeing Manager Qian walking over, Tang Feng, Tang Yuan, and the rest revealed a faint smile. They looked at Ling Jian and narrowed their eyes slightly. Ling Jianyar, Wang Xian beside you. After apologizing, we will leave your Heaven Sword sect. To be honest, our Blood Flow Empire disdains your Heaven Sword sect. We are only here to give you face. Since you guys don't give us face, there's no need for us to accompany you guys here. Turning the tables. The words of the two of them meant that it wasn't your Heavenly Sword sect that chased us out. You guys don't have the right to chase us out. We are the ones who look down on us here. If it was an insult for Ling Jianyar to ask them to scram, then it was also an insult for them to leave with disdain. Chapter 1304. 1304 was tough. On the island of the Heavenly Sword sect, in the venue of the Heavenly Sword Lingyun's meeting, the atmosphere changed a little after Manager Qian appeared. Manager Qian's identity, the strength and background of the third trading company in the world, made everyone present extremely fearful. Even the Heavenly Sword sect and the Bloodshed Empire had to treat him with respect. Especially now, Manager Qian came to speak up for the Bloodshed Empire at this time. Although he said that it was not good to chase Tang Lingyar out, Wang Xian should apologize to Tang Lingyar. In fact, what he meant was that he could not chase Tang Lingyar out. He wanted Wang Xian to apologize to Tang Lingyar. As a businessman, he spoke very tactfully, but everyone knew what he meant. Everyone looked at the smiling Manager Qian and would not ignore him. Tang Feng and Tang Yuan were obviously using this opportunity to say that the guest was the host. The atmosphere was slightly solemn. Shopkeeper Qian looked at Ling Jian with a smile. Tang Feng, Tang Yuan and Tang Ling also stared at Ling Jianyar with cold expressions. Who are you? Do you have the right to speak here? I think you should scram with them. Ling Jian looked at Shopkeeper Qian, and a cold expression flashed across her eyes. Her expression was slightly unsightly as she said directly, "Oh." Ling Jianyar's words caused everyone in the surroundings to be slightly stunned as they looked at Shopkeeper Qian in astonishment. Did she do this on purpose, or did she really not know his identity? Ling Jian did not know Shopkeeper Qian's identity in the past, but just now from the discussions around her, she also knew that this Shopkeeper Qian's identity was extraordinary. Perhaps he was not someone that their Heavenly Sword sect could provoke. But she pretended not to know his identity and coldly questioned him. You. When Shopkeeper Qian heard Ling Jianyar's domineering words, the smile on his face instantly disappeared. He stared at Ling Jianyar with an embarrassed expression, his eyes flickering. Young lady, watch your words. Don't bring undeserved disaster to your Heavenly Sword sect. As he spoke, he slowly narrowed his eyes and coldly said, Ling Jianyar, Shopkeeper Qian is the person in charge of the world's third largest trading company, Flowing Sea Region. You'd better be careful when you speak to Shopkeeper Qian. Don't think that just because your father broke through, he can do as he pleases and not put anyone in his eyes. Tang Feng took 2 steps closer to Shopkeeper Qian and coldly said, Humph. Ling Jianyar coldly snorted. Her expression was somewhat unsightly as she turned her face to the side. Manager Qian, I'm sorry. Our miss doesn't know your identity. Please forgive us for taking such a risk. The elder from the Heavenly Sword sect immediately walked over and said with an apologetic smile on his face, Your miss doesn't know how to be polite. Then teach her more. Manager Qian looked at the elder expressionlessly and said coldly, Yes, yes. The elder from the Heavenly Sword sect didn't dare to offend her and hurriedly said. He looked at Ling Jianyar, indicating for her not to speak. Coming to the Heavenly Sword Lingyun conference is giving face to your Heavenly Sword sect. It's not appropriate for you to treat Miss Tang Ling, and the others like this. As a fair and impartial person, you can just apologize to Miss Tang Ling and the others. Manager Qian stood there and said indifferently. He looked high and mighty with his head slightly raised. Even if this was the territory of the Sky Sword sect. However, with his background, he did have the qualifications. Manager Qian has stepped out to help Tang Ling and the rest. This time, that young man is going to apologize. That Wang Xian is really unlucky. With so many people protecting him, he still has to apologize. What bad luck. He deserves it. I think it would be best if he was killed. Humph. When the crowd heard Manager Qian's words, a smile appeared on their faces. Some of the young men wanted to kill this fellow, who was loved by the 2 goddesses. Who do you think you are? Let me apologize to them. However, what shocked everyone was a cold voice. Wang Xian looked at Manager Qian, who was standing there proudly. Chapter 1305. 1305 No killed him forcefully. Manager Qian, please calm down. Please calm down. If there's anything that we need to settle in the future, please give our Heavenly Sword sect some face. The old man from the Heavenly Sword sect had a slight change of expression when he saw this scene. He quickly walked up to Manager Qian, cupped his fists and said respectfully, "This." When the surrounding people saw that Wang Xian and the people beside him actually dared to confront Manager Qian, their expressions changed drastically. They hurriedly took a few steps back. They were really afraid of a direct fight. Manager Qian, please calm down. Let's have a good talk. Long Xiaotian, who was standing behind Wang Xian, took a few steps forward with a bitter look on his face. He bowed and lowered his posture. What's going on? At this moment, at the entrance of the back mountain, He Yuan, who was a little late, looked at the gathered people with a curious expression on his face. I don't know. There should be some kind of activity, right? Young Master let's go and take a look. A few experts from the Yin clan said with smiles on their faces. And let's go and take a look. I heard that Ling Jianer from the Heavenly Sword sect is quite beautiful. She is a heroine among women. Let's go and get to know her. He Yuan nodded his head indifferently and walked forward. Haha. It's not that I don't want to give you guys face. It's that someone doesn't want to give me face. Before He Yuan walked in, a voice was heard, causing him to be slightly stunned. In the middle of the room, Manager Qian didn't even glance at the old man from the Heavenly Sword sect or Long Xiaotian. He stared coldly at Wang Xian and the rest. Let me tell you guys. Now I will definitely kill this kid. Anyone who dares to help him will be considered an enemy of the third trading company in the world. When the time comes, don't blame me for being ruthless. As he spoke, his gaze swept across Ling Jianer, Ren Xingqian and Zhang Fengying. Finally, his gaze landed on Wang Xian. I just want you to apologize. You don't know what's good for you and dare to call me a nobody. Interesting. I hope you can still be arrogant in a while. Manager Qian narrowed his eyes slightly. His face was still full of smiles as he said faintly, "Make your move. Anyone who dares to stop me, kill them all." Finally, he gave a loud shout and gave an order. How overbearing, how domineering. It's him who's courting death. He's trying to act cool in front of shopkeeper Qian. Damn it. This fellow is going to be finished. I hope that beauty Ling Jianer and that beauty Zhang Fengying won't be irrational. Shopkeeper Qian isn't someone that Blood Flow Empire can compare to actually dare to scold him. He's simply courting death. The expressions of the surrounding people changed slightly when they saw this scene. The people who were surrounding them retreated once again. Don't make a move. Wang Xian swept a glance at Zhang Fengying, Ling Jianer, Ren Xingqian and the rest. His gaze was cold. Did he really think that he was easy to bully? Did he really think that his background was invincible, and that others wouldn't dare to make a move? A terrifying aura emanated from his body as he slowly took a few steps forward. Miss. The old man from the Heavenly Sword sect was also afraid that Ling Jianer would make a move, so he instantly moved to her side. You reckless bastard, go. Bastard, how dare you attack Brother Wang Xian? I think you are the one who is courting death. Go. Under the command of Manager Qian, the two second-level insightful void martial artists shouted coldly and charged at Wang Xian with their weapons in hand. However, before they could say anything, a furious look came from behind them. Boom, boom, boom. After they finished their words, three figures dashed out. Two middle-aged men and an old man were the three strongest people of the Yin clan, the second-level insightful void martial artists. They dashed over without any hesitation and attacked the two men with their weapons. The powerful energy hacked forward directly. What? The expressions of the two second-level see-through void martial artists, who had already rushed out, changed drastically. When they saw the energy that was attacking them, their bodies trembled, and they immediately deployed their defenses. This is the clan leader and elders of the Yin clan. The Yin clan has gone crazy. They actually dared to attack Manager Qian's men. This is crazy. What is the relationship between the Yin clan and Wang Xian? They actually attacked him directly. When the surrounding people saw the Yin clan's powerhouse who had suddenly charged out, their expressions changed drastically. Could it be that the Yin clan had gone crazy? They actually dared to attack Manager Qian's subordinate. Ha! Wang Xian, who was about to attack, was slightly stunned. He looked behind him. When he saw He Yuan, who had a cold expression, his eyes flickered and revealed a hint of a smile. At this moment, the surrounding people also realized the voice from earlier. Some of them noticed the young man behind them, and quickly turned their heads to look. Arrogant and noble. The first time they saw the young man, these two words appeared in everyone's mind. He was dressed in a purple gown, and had his head slightly raised, making him look extremely arrogant. He strolled over, and swept a cold glance at Manager Qian. Then, he looked at the two second-stage profound void martial stage powerhouses, who were surrounded by the three powerhouses of the Yin clan. Who is he? Is he from the Yin clan? I don't think so. What is his identity? What is his relationship with Wang Xian? Everyone looked at this fair-skinned, handsome, and noble young man with astonishment. At this moment, Manager Qian was staring fixedly at He Yuan. Gradually, a look of fear appeared in his eyes. Brother Wang Xian, is this dog trying to kill you? He Yuan walked towards Wang Xian, and came to his side. He turned around and asked Manager Qian directly. How about the people from the third trading company in the world? Can you handle them? Wang Xian looked at him, and asked with a smile on his face. Are they from the Qian family? If they are the core disciples of the few factions behind him, I might have to be wary of them. If they dare to provoke Brother Wang Xian, then kill them. He Yuan said to Wang Xian indifferently. Alright, I'll make my move then. Wang Xian didn't hesitate at all. After confirming that He Yuan could handle it, he didn't hesitate at all. With a move of his palm, the lightning strike wood appeared in his hand. Under everyone's shocked gazes, he placed the lightning strike wood on the ground. Terrifying thorns emerged from under Manager Qian's body in an instant. What you? Manager Qian's expression changed drastically when he saw Wang Xian's sudden attack. He hurriedly wanted to flee into the distance. Humph. He Yuan looked at Manager Qian, who was dodging with disdain. In the next moment, the terrifying thorns covered his entire body. Waves of golden light lit up from his body. The defense of his armor was activated. Extremely hot water sea. Without any hesitation, Wang Xian unleashed his dual attribute combined attack. Don't kill me. No, young master No. Feeling another attack from Wang Xian, Manager Qian's face was filled with shock. He stared at He Yuan and shouted loudly. Boom. Just as he finished his sentence, the sound of an explosion was heard. Under the tearing of the thorns, his body sank into the ground. Stunned, everyone was stunned. Chapter 1306. 1306. The central figure of powerful background. Manager Qian was gone. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he was gone just like that. He was crushed so forcefully that there wasn't even a corpse left. Just now the invincible Manager Qian, who even the Heaven Sword sect was afraid of, was killed directly. This made everyone feel a little dazed. Their eyes were wide open and filled with shock. When Tang Ling Tang Feng, Tang Yuan, and the rest saw this scene, they couldn't help but shiver. They looked at Wang Xian with a hint of fear in their eyes. It won't bring you any trouble, right? Wang Xian looked at He Yuan, and kept the weapon in his hand into his interspatial ring. There's no trouble. I'll just kill this thing. He Yuan shook his head nonchalantly. You actually dared to kill young Master Qian. The three experts of the Yin clan, who were at the second level of the see-through realm, looked over. Their faces were filled with shock. They looked at Wang Xian, and gritted their teeth as they spoke. Oh, that's right. The two of you should go back, and tell your Qian clan, that the bastard of your Qian clan, has recklessly provoked my He Yuan's brother. Kill him immediately. If he dares to take revenge, let him come to the He clan. He Yuan looked at the two second-rank profound void martial artists, and said indifferently, then added, Also, don't think about taking revenge. Otherwise, the Qian clan will be the unlucky one. He Yuan's expression was calm and composed. It was as if Manager Qian's death was like stepping on an ant. He didn't care about it at all. Cough, cough, cough. He clan. He Yuan. The 2 second-rank profound void martial experts widened their eyes, and their pupils constricted slightly. The two of them looked at each other, and a trace of fear flashed in their eyes. Young Master He, I'm sorry. The two people's expressions were extremely unsightly, and they bowed to He Yuan. With a wave of their arms, they directly grabbed the spatial ring left behind by shopkeeper Qian after his death. Their bodies moved and they flew out. When they saw the 2 second-level profound void martial artists leaving, the surrounding people were stunned again. They actually left and even apologized. Oh my God, what is the identity of that young man? Manager Qian, kill him as you wish. That Wang Xian is also very fierce. He didn't hesitate at all. However, what is the identity of that young man called He Yuan? How dare he ignore the Qian family of the third trading company in the world? Another young master with a terrifying identity. One by one, people with powerful forces came to help Wang Xian. Why is Wang Xian's network so terrifying? What is his identity exactly? Everyone around looked at the two young men who were chatting. Their eyes were filled with shock. Haha, brother Wang Xian, in the future, be it in the flowing sea region or the vast region, if anyone dares to provoke you, tell me. I will help you. Standing in front of Wang Xian, He Yuan patted his shoulder in a forthright manner. I will remember this favor. Thank you for today. Wang Xian smiled. If He Yuan was not around today, there might be some trouble. It's a small matter. It's only right for friends to help each other. Brother Wang Xian, are these two your female confidants? Awesome, awesome. He Yuan shook his head nonchalantly and said to Zhang Fengying and Ling Jianyar. Wang Xian shook his head speechlessly. This is Zhang Fengying, my good friend. This is Ling Jianyar. She is Miss Ling Jianyar. I heard from Wang Xian that she is your neighbor. From the looks of it now. He Yuan looked at Ling Jianyar in surprise. But with your strength, brother Wang Xian, you are a perfect match. I think so too. Ling Jianyar smiled faintly at the side. Her words stunned He Yuan slightly. He then laughed out loud and gave Wang Xian a thumbs up. Awesome, awesome. Alright. Why did you suddenly become so talkative? Wang Xian looked at He Yuan speechlessly and said with a smile. Isn't there a beauty beside you? He Yuan chuckled and was very easygoing. He Yuan was a favored son of heaven with a background. Very few people of the same age could get together with him. If it wasn't for the fact that he was stronger than him, he might have ignored Wang Xian at the beginning. However, although he was a little arrogant, he was still a good friend. However, looking at the group of people who were chatting around, everyone couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Everyone present wanted to know what kind of identity He Yuan had. What kind of relationship did Wang Xian have with the mysterious He Yuan? Why were they so familiar with him? Clan leader Yan, may I ask who that young master he is? Tang Feng and Tang Yuan looked at each other. Their faces were filled with fear. They couldn't help but come to the side of clan leader Yan and asked in a low voice. Even they wanted to curry favor with manager Qian, the person in charge of the third trading company in the world, that even the entire blood flow empire feared. He had actually been directly killed, and when the 2-second stage insightful void realm experts of the World Trading Company heard He Yuan's words, they didn't pursue the matter in the slightest. They even directly left after apologizing. What sort of power was this? Only then could they directly kill manager Qian without the slightest care, and not take it to heart. One of the top powers in the vast region. Clan leader Yin looked at Tang Feng and Tang Yuan's cautious expressions, and replied with a faint smile. If they were to make a move today, it would bring great benefits to the Yin clan. In the future, all the powers in the Luhai region would know that they were related to the He clan in the vast region. This made the few people from the Yin clan extremely excited. One of the top forces. Tang Feng and Tang Yuan's pupils constricted slightly. Looking at Wang Xian, who was chatting with He Yuan, their expressions were extremely awkward. Let's go, we'll leave immediately. The two of them didn't hesitate at all. They pulled Tang Ling, and walked out quickly. At this moment, Tang Ling didn't dare to say anything. Her eyes were filled with fear as she walked out. Even Manager Qian was killed. If Wang Xian relied on that young man to kill her, what could the Bloodshed Empire do? Would they pretend that this didn't happen? The Bloodshed Empire was still far from the peak of strength in the vast region. The Luhai region was just a small third-rate region. As they watched the people of the Bloodshed Empire leave with their tails between their legs, the people around them were slightly dazed. In the end, Tang Ling Tang Feng, and the rest still left with embarrassed expressions. This time, it wasn't only Ling Jian who embarrassed them. It was also that Wang Xian. Everyone realized that they couldn't provoke that Wang Xian. They definitely couldn't provoke him. Haha. Long Xiaotian, who was standing at the side where Wang Xian, He Yuan, and the rest were grinned. He was roaring in his heart excitedly. Awesome, awesome. He didn't expect He Yuan's identity to be so terrifying. In fact, he didn't expect any of the things that happened today. It was obvious that the mentor of the Divine Wind Academy, who adored Wang Xian, was an expert at the see-through level. Ling Jian, who confessed to Wang Xian, and He Yuan, who had a terrifying background. Each of their identities were extremely awesome, and their center was Wang Xian. Wang Xian is his brother Long Xiaotian. Chapter 1307. 1307. The Despair of the Prince of the Dragon Dynasty. The thing that Long Xiaotian was most proud of was getting to know Wang Xian, his brother. Looking at the people in front of him who were more powerful than him, he was not the least bit depressed. On the contrary, he was extremely excited. Ling Jian was the daughter of the sect leader of the Heavenly Sword sect. In the future, her position could not even be compared to some princes of the Bloodshed Empire. Now Ling Jian was pursuing Wang Xian. No, she had been rejected twice for pursuing Wang Xian. Dog licking. Although this term was inappropriate, he was naturally very happy that the woman pursuing his brother was awesome. Not to mention He Yuan. Although he didn't know He Yuan's true background, and He Yuan's attitude towards him wasn't as warm as when he was with Wang Xian, this was enough. Because he was Wang Xian's brother. Wang Xian had once said that he would help him obtain the throne. With his words, it was enough. Long Xiaotian was laughing foolishly. At the side, his brothers looked extremely embarrassed. The few of them sat at a table with embarrassed expressions. Their expressions kept changing. How is this possible? How is this possible? How did he know so many people with powerful backgrounds? Long Xiaochen and the others' expressions kept changing, and they all looked extremely embarrassed. He had originally wanted to use all sorts of methods to get rid of that young man. But he didn't expect that the other party had a force that was even more powerful than them. In fact, it was an existence that they looked up to. If he killed shopkeeper Qian without the slightest scruple, could he also kill them without the slightest scruple? Especially the 42nd prince. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. He was the one who arranged the seduction incident. Now, he was afraid that he would have to pay a heavy price after everything was exposed. It's okay. There's no need to be afraid. That Wang Xian is second brother's friend. Second brother will not let him attack us. Otherwise, father will have a problem with him. The 16th prince looked at his brothers with a gloomy face, and said with a twinkle in his eyes. That's right. He has a good relationship with second brother. He won't do anything harmful to us. Furthermore, all of our subordinates are outside the Heavenly Sword Sect's island. Now second brother's influence is still not our match. We don't have to be afraid. As Long Xiaochen spoke, his eyes revealed a helpless look. Now the five of them had to work together to be able to deal with Long Xiaotian. What would they do in the future? When they truly inherited the crown prince's position and inherited the throne, they would be comparing their individual strength. It wasn't the time for them to work together. When that time came, what would they use to compare with Long Xiaotian? This caused their faces to reveal a bitter expression. There are still 7 months left. It's a bit too early to give up now. No one knows who will gain the power in the next 7 months. Humph. The 36th prince let out a cold snort, his eyes filled with an intense desire. That's right, there are still 7 months left. During this period, I don't believe that we cannot defeat second brother. Their eyes were filled with fighting spirit as they slowly raised their wine cups and toasted each other. There were still 7 months left. Goddess Ling Jian Young Master Wang, Young Master He Second Prince. In the center of the venue, people from various powers walked towards them in an attempt to curry favor with them. However, other than Long Xiaoyan's warm hospitality towards the people around him, He Yuan ignored them. Ling Jian only nodded her head indifferently and didn't pay too much attention to them. I will be returning to the Heavenly Sword sect tomorrow. Where can I find you in the future? Ling Jian looked at Wang Xian and asked him directly. Go to the Dragon and Phoenix Empire. You will be able to find me there. Wang Xian smiled at her. Ling Jian nodded her head silently. Oh right, brother Wang Xian. I might be returning in a few days. When are you going to the vast region to play? Come and look for me there. The vast area is much bigger than the flowing sea area. It's also much more fun than here. He Yuan, who was at the side, said with a smile. I will go to the vast area. In 3 to 5 years at most, I will come and look for you. Wang Xian smiled and looked at He Yuan. He would go to the vast area. He was not the only one. When the time came, he would bring along the Dragon Palace and the Divine Dragon Clan, as well as the Dragon Phoenix Empire. When the time came, they would descend to the vast region in a powerful manner. The few of them chatted for more than an hour. At this moment, Long Xiaotian, who was standing at the side, suddenly took out his communication stone plate. When he saw the contents on it, his eyes flickered. He looked at Wang Xian, who was chatting with Zhang Fengying. After a moment of hesitation, he walked over. Brother Wang Xian, I've received news. As Long Xiaotian spoke, he handed over the communication stone plate in his hand for him to take a look. Is it outside? All right, get your men to prepare. I'll help you clear all the obstacles today. Wang Xian said with a smile. The framing today was definitely done by Long Xiaotian's brothers. The assassins from a few days ago were also hired by them. If Wang Xian didn't make them experience despair, they would really think that they were easy to bully. All right, I'll contact them immediately. I'll give them a big gift today. Long Xiaoyan's eyes sparkled as a hint of excitement appeared on his face. Fengying, do me a favor. Wang Xian looked at Zhang Fengying at the side and asked her to help him get his 2 ferocious beasts over. Zhang Fengying nodded her head. Earlier, Wang Xian had already decided to let her leave the Divine Wind Academy. She hesitated for a moment before agreeing to it. As for what to do next, naturally, she would be with Wang Xian and leave this place when the time was right. Wang Xian gave her a drop of his blood. With Zhang Fengying's beast-taming ability, she could definitely bring Ling Zilin and the rest over. Zhang Fengying left while Ling Jian stayed by Wang Xian's side for 2 hours. After that, she left and gave a simple greeting to the surrounding forces. Brother Wang Xian, my men are ready. My brothers are leaving. Night had arrived. Long Xiaotian walked to his side and said softly, Let's go. Let's go out with them. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly and walked out. All right, let's go. He Yuan had already left ahead of time. There were also some people who left in the entire venue. Wang Xian and Long Xiaotian walked out with smiles on their faces. Brothers, I advise you to return to the imperial city. You are no match for me. Long Xiaotian looked at Long Xiaochen and the rest who were walking in front and said provocatively, Humph. The 5 princes paused and turned their heads with cold expressions. Don't think that you can be so arrogant with the help of the people around you. Let me tell you, there are still 7 months left. It's uncertain who will win and who will lose. But we can guarantee that you will be very miserable. Chapter 1308. 1308, under the despair of the Prince of the Light Dragon Dynasty. On the island of the Heavenly Sword Sect, the people who came here left one after another. Long Xiaochen and the other princes of the Light Dragon Dynasty stared at Long Xiaotian angrily. Looking at his smug expression, they wanted to give him a good beating. The second prince of the Light Dragon dynasty is too lucky. He knows Wang Xian. With that Wang Xian's strength and connections, it won't be easy for him to help Long Xiaotian inherit the throne. I guess Long Xiaotian's ability to obtain so many mounts is related to that Wang Xian. This year, I heard from the Yan clan that the He clan is the top clan in the vast region. Young master, he is a powerful beast tamer. That should be it. The other princes are too pitiful. What right do they have to compete with Long Xiaotian? No one is helping them. Before this, who knew that Wang Xian was so terrifying? Ling Jianyar's pursuit, young master he from the vast region, and even shopkeeper Qian were killed. The princes and princesses from the Bloodshed Empire left with their tails between their legs. Some of them walked out as they watched Wang Xian and Long Xiaotian discussing softly. This was especially so for Wang Xian. What happened today was too shocking for them. The appearance of powerful figures, one by one, had a close relationship with him. Even the Blood Flow Empire was smacked in the face. In the future, there would be very few who dared to provoke Wang Xian in the Luhai region. Everyone was envious that Long Xiaotian was able to befriend such a brother. At the same time, sympathy appeared on the faces of Long Xiaotian and the rest. When the princes heard the discussions around them, their faces turned dark and gloomy. Humph. Long Xiaotian and the rest took a glance at Long Xiaotian and Wang Xian. They snorted coldly and walked out in a huff. Brothers, you have to pay attention to your safety in the future. Long Xiaotian and Wang Xian looked at each other. A faint smile appeared in their eyes as they said provocatively. After saying that, the two of them followed behind the princes and walked out. Long Xiaotian and the rest paused for a moment. They did not say anything else with a gloomy face. Buzz, buzz. After walking out of the island of the Heavenly Sword sect, the few of them moved and flew straight into the sky ahead. In the sky in front of them, a group of over 1,000 people were waiting. The leaders were 5 experts at the first level of the Profound Void stage. These were all the forces of the 5 princes of Long Xiaotian. Initially, they were prepared to show off their forces today, and wanted to recruit some subordinates. However, it seemed that it would be very difficult for them to recruit subordinates in the future. After all, Long Xiaotian was like the sun in the sky now. Actually, every prince of the Radiant Dragon Empire has quite a strong influence. However, the second prince met Wang Xian, and now his influence has completely surpassed theirs. I think it's very likely that Long Xiaotian will inherit the throne. Although their influence is not bad, the gap between them and the second prince is still a little big. That's hard to say. Now that the 5 princes have joined forces, Long Xiaotian is still not qualified to fight against them when the 5 of them join forces. Some of the forces that walked out from the surrounding looked at the subordinates of the princes in the sky and discussed in low voices with sparkling eyes. Long Xiaotian and the others who flew to the side of the subordinates looked at Long Xiaotian. Second brother, don't be complacent too early. There are still 7 months left. The winner and loser haven't been decided yet. Don't be too arrogant. Otherwise, the higher you fly, the harder you fall. As your elder brother, I also warn you to be careful in the future. The 5 princes stood side by side. They looked at Long Xiaotian coldly and warned him. Is that so? Long Xiaotian narrowed his eyes slightly. Long Xiaotian, and the rest of you, I want to ask you something. At this moment, Wang Xian looked at the 5 of them. It was you who hired an assassin organization to kill me a few days ago, right? It's fine if you don't answer. It's because there's no one else besides you. Also, the woman on the island of the Heavenly Sword sect was also arranged by you guys, right? He said faintly. Although he was asking them a question, he seemed to be stating a fact. When Long Xiaotian and the rest heard Wang Xian's words, their expressions did not change at all. Wang Xian, don't slander us. Don't think that we are afraid of you, just because you have a lot of connections. In the upcoming competition for the throne, if you still want to stand on Long Xiaotian's side, we are still enemies. Long Xiaotian and the rest stared at Wang Xian with dark faces as they spoke. Enemies? Haha, after today, all of you will no longer have the right to be my enemies. Long Xiaotian, who was standing at the side, suddenly laughed maniacally as he stared coldly at Long Xiaochen and the rest. Ha! Long Xiaochen and the 5 princes were slightly stunned as they stared at Long Xiaotian in astonishment. Rip! There's a group of people flying over here. So many mounts. Those are Long Xiaotian's subordinates. What are they trying to do? They are no match for the 5 princes now. Is there going to be a fight? The group of people who had just walked out of the Heavenly Sword Sect's island looked at the nearly 300 or so mounts in front of them that were flying over with killing intent soaring into the sky. All of them had shocked expressions on their faces. What? Long Xiaochen and the other princes were slightly shocked and quickly looked around. The subordinates behind them also looked around and saw a group of people riding their mounts and surrounding them. Their expressions changed slightly. At the same time, a hint of envy flashed in their eyes. If they had submitted to the second prince back then, they would also have a powerful mount. There were more than 300 people in the group, and nearly 300 of them were riding on mounts. Bai Qingshan and Elder Zhu stood in the center and rushed over in high spirits. Second prince, do you want to kill the enemy? The group of more than 300 people surrounded them. They stared at Long Xiaotian with fiery eyes and shouted loudly. Do you want to kill the enemy? Everyone's faces were filled with excitement and violence. If they succeeded today, they would be the trusted aides of the future king of the Light Dragon dynasty. Haha, good. Second brother, I really don't know where your confidence comes from. You want to destroy my subordinates just because you have so many people? Long Xiaochen and the other 5 swept their eyes over Long Xiaotian's subordinates, laughed loudly, and roared with ice-cold eyes. Long Xiaotian, I don't know if you're stupid or if you want to become the crown prince too much, but I like what you're doing. Long Xiaochen licked his lips as his eyes sparkled. The 5 princes had joined forces. With their current strength, they were not afraid of Long Xiaotian at all. They were even looking for an opportunity for Long Xiaotian's subordinates to travel, and were ready to make a move. What they didn't expect was that Long Xiaotian would actually send people over at this time to determine the winner with them. They were more than happy to see such a situation. Get ready. Get rid of these arrogant fellows for me. Chapter 1309. 1309 was a slap to the face. What is this? Is the competition for the position of the crown prince of the Dragon Dynasty going to be decided today? This, Long Xiaotian, actually sent all of his subordinates directly to compete with the other princes. Isn't he a little too hasty? With his current strength, he can't crush them at all. Isn't this a little stupid? When the surrounding people saw Long Xiaotian's subordinates surrounding them, they didn't leave immediately. Instead, they stood by the side and watched. When some people saw this situation, they said in surprise, it was a little reckless to make a move at this time. Moreover, judging from the strength of his subordinates, they weren't a match for the 5 princes at all. Do you like it? I said that I would help brother Long Xiaotian take down the position of crown prince, and I will do it as I said. Wang Xian looked at the ferocious and excited expressions of Long Xiaochen and the rest, and a smile appeared on his face. Roar! Roar! Walala! However, just as Wang Xian finished speaking, 2 beast roars suddenly came from below. Zhang Fengying's figure appeared. She moved and came to Wang Xian's side. She stood silently by the side. 2 ferocious beasts at the first level of the see-through realm suddenly flew out from the bottom of the sea, causing the expressions of Long Xiaochen and the other princes to change slightly. However, they did not panic. Hehe, for powerhouses at the first level of the see-through realm, even you, Wang Xian, have the combat strength of the first level of the see-through realm. It's still not enough to deal with us. Long Xiaochen and the other princes glanced at the group of people surrounding them and said coldly, kill the enemy. However, Long Xiaotian did not waste any time with them. He raised his hand and roared. Roar! 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 Roars came from everyone's mounts. Chirp, chirp. After the roars, a different kind of chirping sound was heard. At the rear, more than 10 birds that were emitting light flew over. Every bird and beast was emitting a powerful aura. Especially the one in the middle that was at the first level of the profound void tier. In the dark night, it was like a blazing sun. What? That's a flying dodo bird. A flying dodo bird at the profound void tier. Hiss! A flying dodo bird at the profound void tier. And more than 10 half-step profound void tier beasts. No wonder Long Xiaotian dared to show his cards at this time. With this strength, he can completely fight against the forces of the 5 princes. Those 2 middle-aged insightful void tier, 1 middle-aged men, and 3 ferocious beasts of insightful void tier, one can definitely fight against the 5 insightful void tier experts beside the 5 princes. With the dodo birds and the subordinates riding on their mounts, the second prince has a high chance of winning this battle. When the surrounding people saw the dodo birds that suddenly appeared, their expressions changed slightly. Everyone had a look of amazement on their faces. Long Xiaotian's forces, even if they did not rely on the Light Dragon dynasty, were still not to be ignored. Kill! Those who surrender will be spared your lives. Long Xiaotian roared. Kill! His subordinates and fierce beasts instantly moved, and directly attacked the subordinates of the 5 princes. What? They did not allow Long Xiaotian and the other princes to be shocked, or have any time to think. They attacked them one by one. Face the enemy! Long Xiaotian and the other 3 princes roared with ugly expressions. They moved and retreated to the side. They are fighting. They are fighting right now. The competition between the princes of the Light Dragon dynasty is very cruel. The eyes of the surrounding people flickered when they saw the battle between thousands of people. Damn it! Damn it! How could Long Xiaotian have so many fierce beasts? At this moment, the 5 princes who flew to the side watched the battle with unsightly expressions. If it weren't for that flock of dodos, their strength would definitely be stronger than Long Xiaotian's. However, the appearance of the dodos made their subordinates completely unable to match them. Those were more than 10 half-step void interpretation fierce beasts. Chirp chirp. How could this be? How could this be? Su Wenling looked at the dodo bird that was attacking him. His face was filled with cold sweat. He never expected that the current second prince would be so powerful that he could fight against 5 of them alone. Furthermore, he could completely suppress them. A strong sense of regret surged into his heart. If he wasn't jealous of Wang Xian back then, if he had submitted to the second prince back then, he might be riding a half-step void interpretation beast now. In the future, he would also become the king's trusted aide. Now he regretted it. Looking at the beast in front of him, he immediately braced himself. With an ugly expression, he gritted his teeth and responded. There are more half-step void interpretation experts at the second prince's side. The victor has already been decided. I really didn't expect that the position of the crown prince of the Light Dragon dynasty would last for another 7 months. I didn't expect it to be decided now. Looking at the battle in front of the island, everyone sighed. Long Xiaotian, I'll go teach your brothers a lesson. Wang Xian took a glance at the battlefield and said to Long Xiaotian with a smile. He then looked at Long Xiaotian and the rest. Brother Wang Xian, as long as their lives are not harmed. Long Xiaotian hesitated for a moment before saying with a smile. Don't worry, they are your brothers after all. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. With a move of his arm, the lightning strike would appeared in his hand. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Long Xiaotian and the rest. What are you going to do? When the 42nd prince saw Wang Xian looking at them with a hostile gaze, his expression changed slightly. He stared at Wang Xian with his eyes wide open. The rest of the princes also turned their heads to look at Wang Xian with uncertain expressions. You guys are making me very unhappy. Of course, I will teach you guys a lesson. The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he walked over slowly. Long Xiaotian stared at Wang Xian with uncertain expressions. His gaze swept across Long Xiaotian who was behind him. Brothers, don't worry. Brother Wang Xian will not take your lives. Don't look at me. It's useless even if you look at me. Who asked you to make Brother Wang Xian unhappy? As Long Xiaotian spoke, a faint smile appeared on his face. HMPH, Wang Xian, don't think that just because you have an extraordinary status, you don't put everyone in your eyes. I, Long Xiaochen, am a heaven's favorite. Do you really think that I'm afraid of you? Long Xiaochen snorted coldly when he heard Long Xiaoyan's words. He stared at Wang Xian coldly. Heaven's pride. The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled into a mocking smile. He was merely a heaven's pride who was ranked 7th. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. He moved his arm, and a thick and heavy thorn went straight for them. You're courting death. The expressions of the 5 of them changed drastically. They immediately picked up the weapons in their hands and slashed at the thorn. However, what frightened them was that their attacks did not have any effect when they landed on the thorn. Aha! The few of them let out a blood-curdling scream as their bodies struggled violently. Pa 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 pa. However, very soon, the sound of a face smacking was heard. The brambles were flung directly onto their faces, appearing exceptionally eye-catching in the night sky. Chapter 1310. 1310 in the main hall of PA. Ah! You! Crisp sounds and sounds of pain rang out in front of the Heavenly Sword Sex Island. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze. The 5 princes of the Radiant Dragon Dynasty, the princes with noble statuses, ended up letting out miserable cries here. I'm afraid only Wang Xian would dare to slap the faces of the 5 princes of the Radiant Dragon Dynasty in front of everyone. The winner has been announced. The Crown Prince position of the Radiant Dragon Empire will be inherited by the 2nd prince. Even if the Radiant Dragon Empire knew that the 5 princes were beaten, they wouldn't say anything. This Wang Xian's strength is really terrifying. Long Xiaochen is ranked 7th on the prodigy roll. Wang Xian has the strength of at least the 1st level of the see-through realm. There are so many monstrous prodigies on our side this year. Nameless Sword Demon, Ling Jian and Ren Xingchen all have the combat strength of the see-through realm. Now there's also that Zhang Fengying Wang Xian. There are a total of 5 monstrous prodigies who are comparable to the see-through realm. There are so many heaven's favorites. There is always another mountain higher. This year's Heaven's Favorites ranking is considered to be a more dazzling one. When the crowd saw Wang Xian easily slapping the 5 princes of the Radiant Dragon Empire, they sighed and thought of the Heaven's Favorites today. They all felt as if they were born at the wrong time. There were a total of 5 monstrous Heaven's Favorites this year. If Qian Yi was included, there were a total of 6. In the past, it was rare for anyone under the age of 50 to have the strength of the insightful void tier. However, there were 6 this year. What everyone did not know was that the 6 Heaven's Favorites, who had the strength of the 1st level of the insightful void tier, were related to Wang Xian. The Nameless Sword Demon was Wang Xian. Qian Yi was killed by Wang Xian. Ren Xingchen was saved twice by Wang Xian. Furthermore, Wang Xian was the one who gave him the Golden Water Sword principle. Ling Jian was also saved twice by Wang Xian. As for Zhang Fengying, there was no need to mention that her bloodline and beast taming techniques came from Wang Xian. Come to think of it, these freaks were all caused by Wang Xian. If the people in the tomb of the human and demon knew about this, they would definitely be in an uproar. We surrender. I surrender, I surrender. At this moment, the terrified voices of the 5 princes' subordinates could be heard. Wang Xian, who was slapping his face, looked towards the battlefield. A smile appeared on his face. With a wave of his arm, the thorns in his hand disappeared. Haha, wise choice. All of you are from the Guanglong dynasty in the future. There is no need to fight to the death. If all of you are willing to join my Long Xiaotian subordinates, I will welcome all of you here. As long as all of you are loyal in the future, I will definitely not mistreat each and every one of you. Long Xiaotian saw that his brother's subordinates had surrendered and laughed loudly. He floated in the sky and roared in high spirits. Following Long Xiaotian's words, everyone stopped. The subordinates of the 5 princes floated in the sky with extremely ugly expressions. They were completely no match for the other party. Even if they had a huge advantage in numbers, the gap was too big in front of a top-tier power. Especially those 10 or so half-step void interpretation flying birds. They were completely killing machines. How could this be? Long Xiaochen and the others clenched their fists tightly when they saw this scene. Their scarred faces were filled with malevolence and powerlessness. They had lost, completely and utterly lost. They still wanted to think of a way to completely defeat Long Xiaotian in the next 7 months. But now they had lost. They had lost so completely that the power of 5 people was not as strong as one person. Who? The 5 of them looked at each other, their faces ashen as they flew towards the direction of the Light Dragon Dynasty's island. Today's battle had completely disqualified them from continuing the game. There was no need for them to continue. They could already return to the Imperial City. Unless they were like the 8th prince, risking their lives to fight. But now, it seemed that even if they were to risk their lives to fight, there was only a 1% chance of defeating the 2nd prince. After today, Long Xiaoyan's forces would become stronger and stronger. When everyone around saw this scene, they looked at the 2nd prince who was in high spirits. Their eyes sparkled. There was an 80% to 90% chance that the king of the Dragon Dynasty would be the 2nd prince in the future. Let's go. Wang Xian looked at Long Xiaotian and revealed a smile on his face. After greeting him, he looked at Zhang Fengying, and the 2 of them flew towards their residence. What have you been doing in the demi-human graveyard? Picking up girls? When they arrived at Wang Xian's residence, Zhang Fengying looked at the courtyard and asked Wang Xian. I'm here to gain experience and improve my strength. How would I have the time to pick up girls? Wang Xian shook his head speechlessly. Next, I'm going to upgrade my level to the Insightful Void stage before leaving. Why don't you go to the Divine Wind Academy and follow me to the Blood Refinement Ground in a few days? All right. Zhang Fengying nodded. In the next few days, Wang Xian, He Yuan, Long Xiaotian, and the rest played around for a few days. A few days later, He Yuan left. Long Xiaotian, who had basically secured his position as the crown prince, led his subordinates to the Huiguang Dragon Dynasty to settle some matters. He would return in a month. Wang Xian brought Zhang Fengying directly into the Blood Refinement Ground and began to hunt and devour crazily. For the next 3 months or so, they stayed in the Blood Refinement Ground. They killed more than 10,000 ferocious beasts. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elements Divine Dragon, able to transform into a human. Level, Extraordinary Level 9. Dragon Crystal, 717640/1000000000. Supernatural ability, Ruling the Water Tribe. Ruling the Water Tribe that is lower than their own level. Devouring creatures to extract dragon crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, Divine Dragon Transformation. Ability, Fire Dragon's Flame. Gold splits the void, wood world descends. Water threatens the city, Fury of the Earth, Soul Capture, Spirit Possession. Light and Dark Fire Dragon Eyes. Light and Dark Void. Light and Dark Shadowless, Earth Dragon Shield. Light and Dark, Divine Dragon's Fire Tail. Water Spirit, Fire Territory. Water and Wood Healing, Gold Spirit Tree Demon. Gold and Fire Cleansing, War of the Earth. Dragon Palace, Level 3. Dragon Palace members, 3,366. I'm still short of nearly 300 million dragon crystals. 3 months had passed, and Wang Xian was still short of nearly 300 million dragon crystals to level up. 300 million was not a lot, but it was definitely not a small amount. In the past 3 months, I've basically gone to all the places that I can go to in the Blood Refinement Ground. I've even killed hundreds of demonic beasts. It's going to be difficult to continue to obtain spiritual essence and blood. Riding on the demonic Qilin, Wang Xian frowned slightly. Beside him, Zhang Fengying was also riding on a demonic Qilin. This was another demonic beast that they had tamed in the past 2 months. Let's go to the main hall and take a look. Wang Xian thought to himself. Wang Xian had already wreaked havoc in the four major areas of the human-demon graveyard: the Heaven's Pride stage, the training ground, and the blood refinement ground. Only the most dangerous area of the tomb of the human-demon race had not been visited by the main hall. The main hall was the stage for the insightful emptiness realm experts. It was very difficult to survive there without reaching the insightful emptiness realm. Chapter 1311. 1311 The Cruel Main Hall. Be careful. After resting for 2 days in the demi-human graveyard, Zhang Fengying walked him to the entrance and said to him, "Don't worry. Information cannot be spread in the main hall. I might be staying there for a period of time. Don't worry, I will be fine." Wang Xian waved his hand at Zhang Fengying and flew towards the main hall. The main hall was once the core of the Bloodstream sect. It was the starting point of the Bloodstream sect's treasure trove, herb garden, and spirit stone lode. It was also the training ground for the sect leader and the elders. The main hall was the only intact building in the tomb of the demi-human. It was covered by a powerful array formation. It covered an area of about 100 kilometers. The most precious place inside was the various training rooms. As the main hall, the cultivation rooms inside were more than 10 times the size of the outside world. There were also cultivation rooms of various attributes, which corresponded to cultivation, increasing the speed of cultivation even faster. Besides these cultivation rooms, there were also many treasures in the main hall, such as spirit grass, weapons, spirit liquid, and essence blood. However, the Bloodstream sect's beast garden used to be next to the medicinal garden. After the Bloodstream sect had an accident, these fierce beasts had rushed out. They had swallowed a large amount of spiritual herbs and evolved. Now these fierce beasts were the most common in the main hall. Fierce beasts liked to stay in places with abundant spiritual energy, which resulted in many treasure lands being occupied by fierce beasts. And if humans and demonic beasts wanted to cultivate in the cultivation room, they had to first kill the fierce beasts. If they wanted to obtain some treasures, they had to first subdue the fierce beasts. However, the beasts inside were once kept by the Bloodstream sect, and each of them had a bloodline level that was not lower than the Profound Void tier. There were even 6th-level Profound Void tier beasts, which resulted in many 6th-level Profound Void tier beasts in the main hall. These beasts were inside, which resulted in even the strongest experts in the Flowing Sea region had to be careful when entering. Demon Soul, you said that the place where you obtained the 5 elemental spirit pearl is in a mysterious cultivation room. It contains the energy of the 5 elements. Are you serious? Wang Xian rode on the Demon Soul and wore a mask on his face. He headed towards the main hall as the nameless sword demon. My king, how could I lie to you? Back then, my strength was only at level 9 of the supernatural realm. In order to pursue a powerful strength, I entered the tomb of the demi-human and coincidentally entered a cultivation room. There was a passageway in that cultivation room. After walking for dozens of kilometers, I came to an underground space. I obtained the 5 elemental spirit pearl from there. Moreover, that place was enveloped by a terrifying array formation. The 5 elemental energy was raging inside. It was extremely terrifying, and I was too weak back then. After obtaining the 5 elemental spirit pearl, I left immediately. After that, I went into seclusion and broke through to the 2nd level of the void interpretation stage. I never had the chance to go there again. The Demon Soul said respectfully to Wang Xian. The main purpose of Wang Xian's visit to the main hall was to listen to the Demon Soul talk about this space a month ago. Due to the 5 elemental spirit pearl, the Demon Soul was able to reach the 2nd level of the void interpretation stage in less than 50 years. That space contained a majestic energy of the 5 elements. If what it said was true, Wang Xian's cultivation inside was at least dozens of times that of the outside world. Let's go increase the speed. Wang Xian nodded silently and said to the Demon Soul, Yes, King. The Demon Soul's body shook as it flew rapidly in the sky of the human demon graveyard. That is, the nameless sword demon riding on the demon scale, It's him. The nameless sword demon has appeared again. Where is he going? In the human demon graveyard, when people saw the demon's soul flying in the sky, they were all shocked. There was only one person in the entire demi-human graveyard who was riding on a demon-scale demon beast, and that person was the nameless sword demon. After the 5 sword demons disappeared for a few months, they reappeared. It was an incomparably huge building complex. Compared to the prodigy stage and the training grounds, this was the largest and most complete building complex in the demi-human graveyard. A building that was about 2,000 meters tall and reached into the clouds stood in the center. From afar, one could see the words Main Hall of the Bloodstream Sect. It was emitting a terrifying power. A terrifying formation enveloped it. Similar to other places, half of the main hall was on land, and the other half was in the ocean. That's the nameless sword demon. The nameless sword demon is also in the main hall. When Wang Xian arrived at the entrance of the main hall, the 5 or 6 insightful void martial arts practitioners at the entrance looked over. The demi-human graveyard was the center of the flowing sea region. There were at least a few thousand insightful emptiness realm experts active in the surroundings. Among them, 70% of the insightful emptiness realm experts were in the main hall. If he was lucky, he might be able to obtain the inheritance of the ancient Bloodstream sect. The founders of the Bloodstream Empire and the Bloodstream sect had established their empire and sect because they obtained powerful treasures in the main hall of the Bloodstream sect. Let's go. Wang Xian glanced at the few people at the entrance and entered directly from the entrance. Buzz. The moment he stepped into the main hall, Wang Xian could clearly sense that the spiritual energy was several times stronger than the outside. The entrance was a corridor that was only about 20 meters long. After walking through the corridor, there were 3 intersections. In front of them were all kinds of buildings. The buildings inside were slightly damaged. It was obvious that a powerful battle had occurred here. Can you find the entrance to that place from here? Wang Xian asked the demon soul. No, we have to head towards the sea of demonic beasts. Once we reach the sea, I should be able to find the place. The demon soul said to Wang Xian. Yes, all right. Wang Xian nodded his head. His eyes flashed with a demonic look as he swept his gaze forward. There were buildings and powerful formations all around him. His light dark fire dragon eyes could not penetrate through this place at all. I knew it. My strength is still too weak. The light dark fire dragon eyes were not omnipotent. The powerful energy could not penetrate through it at all. Shrink your body a little. Wang Xian jumped down from the demon soul and spoke to it. Then he dashed straight ahead. He looked around vigilantly. He had just entered the outer area. Other than encountering 2 insightful void martial artists, there was no danger. The 2 insightful void martial artists who met Wang Xian looked at him vigilantly and left hurriedly. The main hall was filled with dangers. It was very common to kill and rob people. One couldn't trust anyone here. Wang Xian steered forward. The surroundings were deathly silent. Wang Xian restrained his voice and proceeded forward carefully. The spiritual energy over there is so abundant. After walking for more than 10 kilometers, Wang Xian suddenly sensed an even stronger spiritual energy fluctuation from a room. He hesitated for a moment and flew towards that direction. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, before he could get close, 3 terrifying attacks were launched at him. Each attack was unleashed by at least a second-level void interpretation expert. This caused Wang Xian's expression to change slightly. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.